Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to today's meeting of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. Madam Secretary, we do have a quorum present. Please mark Majority Leader Canizaro present when she arrives, and please mark Senator Severs Gansert present or absent, excused. I will skip the housekeeping notes as we've gone over them very often. If anyone has any questions, they can feel free to call my office or the committee staff, and we will take things a little out of order today. Assemblywoman Cohen has to run very soon to go chair a committee over in the Assembly, so we're going to take Assembly Bill 121. First, we'll open the hearing on Assembly Bill 121. Assemblywoman Cohen, thank you for joining us.
Sorry about that, Chair. I forgot about housekeeping. Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29. Thank you, Chair and Committee, for hearing Assembly Bill 121. I'm going to give you some background before we go through the bill. Voting is both a right and a responsibility, and I believe that every eligible voter should have the ability to participate in elections and make their opinions and choices known. This includes every person with a disability. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 26.8% of adults in Nevada have some type of disability. This demographic comprises a wide variety of voters, including people with cognitive, communicative, mobility, physical, or visual impairments. Federal and state laws affirm the right to an accessible, independent, and private vote for people with disabilities. And what AB 121 does is it extends upon those rights and codifies a method for a person with a disability to participate in the civic process of voting. Primarily, the measure allows a person with a disability to use the Effective Absentee System for Elections, or EASE, to register and vote. The program was established to allow uniformed military and overseas Nevadans to vote, to register, request a ballot, and vote, and entirely online using a digital electronic signature. So for the bill summary, just a few highlights. The measure includes a lot of conforming language, but the bill itself is really quite simple. Assembly Bill 121 requires the Secretary of State to allow EASE to be used by an elector with a disability to register to vote, and a registered voter with a disability to apply for and cast an absent ballot. The measure requires the system of approved electronic transmission to allow such an elector or registered voter to provide his or her digital or electronic signature or on any document or other material that is necessary for the elector to register to vote or for the registered voter to apply for and cast an absent ballot. And this is, sorry, I forgot to say, this is Section 1. So, and then also in Section 1, the Secretary of State is required to establish procedures to be used by local elections officials in accepting, handling, and counting absent ballots received from a registered voter with a disability using EASE. And one thing to keep in mind is that the Secretary of State's office has a program already to allow disabled Nevadans to vote, so they know that the program works and it's worked well. The bill is essentially putting that program into statute so that we know the rights of disabled Nevadans will be protected. Sections 2 through 12 are conforming language. And then sections 13 through 16 relate to deadlines for voters with a disability and voters under UACAVA, which is the Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act. By existing statute, a UACAVA covered voter is a uniformed service voter, an overseas voter, or a spouse or dependent of a uniformed service voter. And pursuant to statute right now, the Secretary of State is required to make available to covered voters under UACAVA information regarding voter registration procedures for covered voters and procedures for casting military overseas ballots. Additionally, the Secretary of State is required to establish a system of approved electronic transmission through which a covered voter may provide his or her digital signature or electronic signature on any document or other material that is necessary for the covered voter to register to vote, apply for a military overseas ballot, or cast a military overseas ballot. So currently, the UACAVA application to register to vote and a ballot are timely if received by the 7th day before the election. With regard to voter registration, if received after the 7th day before the election, it's treated as an application to register for a subsequent election. So to make sure all voters have the same access, what AB 121 also proposes is that ease and the UACAVA provisions in Nevada law be revised to align with the same day voter registration deadline provided to other voters in Nevada. In addition, ease and the UACAVA provisions related to the deadlines for the receipt of a ballot should also be conformed to allow for the ballots to be received before the close of business on the day of the election. So with us today on Zoom is Mark Voloshin, who's Deputy Secretary of State for Elections of the Office of Secretary of State. And Mr. Voloshin is available to answer any technical questions that you might have about ease, implementation of the bill, that type of thing. And Mr. Voloshin will also take us through a demonstration of ease. And additionally, Mr. Voloshin is here to express the Secretary of State's support for the bill. After that, we have testimony from some co-presenters. On the Zoom, we have Santa Perez, who is President Emeritus of People First Nevada, a member of the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, and I actually think you're the president now. Santa, I believe you're the president now, so, and then also a member of the Advisory Committee on Increasing Competitive Integrated Employment for Individuals with Disabilities, although she's not representing her, using her role and representing them, she testifies today. And further with us here at the, in Carson City and at the table is Dora Martinez, representing the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition. Dora is an advocate and was the lead presenter in 2019, and the 2019 session for AB 140, which prohibited discrimination against certain persons in proceedings related to children. Additionally, I believe Janine Morris is on the Zoom as well to testify in support, and she's an elector with disability, and she's also going to share her experience in voting. So with that, I think if it's okay, Chair, if we could have Mr. Voloshin give his information.
Certainly. Thank you, Chief Deputy Voloshin. Thank you for joining us. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee. Mark Voloshin, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections, for the record. Chapter 293D of NRS Title 24 identifies the duties of the Secretary of State and clerks as they relate to the Uniform Military and Overseas Absentee Voters Act, or UACAVA. It includes provisions that govern the distribution of ballots and balloting materials to covered voters by a variety of means, including through a system of approved electronic transmission that is established by the Secretary of State. The Effective Absentee System for Elections, or EASE, was first created in 2014. It has been used by members of the military and overseas citizens with much success since then. Covered voters are able to register to vote, request the ballot, and receive elections documents. It does not allow voters to vote online, but instead enables them to send a verified document back to their county clerk or registrar indicating for whom they wish to cast a ballot. Since its inception, 3,772 Nevadans have used the system successfully, with 1,273 alone using it during the 2020 general election. In April of 2020, the system was modified so that eligible Nevada voters with disabilities were able to use it as well. 93 individuals with disabilities used this system successfully during the 2020 general election. I have reviewed and discussed Assembly Bill 121 with Assemblywoman Cohen. The Office of the Secretary of State is in support of this bill. Over the next few minutes, Chair, with your permission, I will be providing a short demonstration of ease in order to help you see and understand this program.
Please go ahead. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you. The EASE program is only turned on 45 days prior to the start of an election, and it is shut off once polls close on election day. So the version I'm about to show you is our internal testing version. The system you see before you is EASE. This is the front page that an individual will pull up when they go to the EASE system. After reading over the information, providing some assessment about what the system does, the individuals will click continue, or again, through the ADA compliant means, be able to continue on to the different screens. There's an affirmation on the second page identifying, again, that the individual is qualified and eligible to use this application, along with the declaration that the individual, again, is eligible. After clicking and affirming, the following page provides the individual an opportunity to enter their information. After entering their information and moving down further into the classification, there are a number of options that the individuals are able to click to identify which covered voter they are. In this case, we will click that they are a Nevada resident with a disability. After completing the CAPTCHA, you move on to the information page. This pop-up comes up because if an individual goes through this process, the system will recognize that they've already created multiple ballots or another ballot. Individuals are able to make more than one ballot, but again, the way it works is that the barcode on the ballot, the only one that is sent is the first one that the clerks or registrars will count. Any other ballots that are sent will be ignored. On the additional information page, they affirm their residency to the state, and then there's also a box to identify if somebody's assisting the voter with this process. In this case, the system identifies if the individual was registered or not. If they are not registered, then it would be a new registration, as Assemblywoman Cohen had mentioned. We have pop-up screens incorporated into this process, identifying if registration deadlines have passed. Again, pursuant to AB 121, if the bill is passed, some of these will be adjusted to reflect the updated timelines. On this page, the individual enters their residential information. And provides additional information as well, including political party. There are also options here for the individuals to receive sample ballots in larger type. After confirming the information, the system pulls up the precinct-specific ballot for that voter based on their residency. This allows the individuals to go down through and click the arrows to identify which individuals they're choosing to cast their ballot for. After progressing all the way through the races to the ballot questions, voters are offered an opportunity to review their selections as well. The system also, you'll notice, identifies undervotes and if there's a blank ballot, to allow the voter to go back and correct their choices. Once they've confirmed that they have selected the right choices, they click confirm selections at the bottom, and then we get to just about the last step in the process. At this point, Everything is grayed out and unable to be clicked until the voter identifies and recognizes that they are responsible for returning this ballot to their county election office. At this point, they're offered three options. You can return it by mail, and the system automatically populates it with the address of the individual's county clerk or registrar. They can return it by a secured email or return it by fax. If they click return it by email, it creates a secured PDF, a digital document that only the county clerk's offices have the password for. The individuals are then able to email that secured and locked file directly to their county clerks, who will then open it. And I'll talk through that process in a moment. If they return it by mail, the individuals are allowed to print out the option, and I'll show you the packet here in a moment, and then are able to mail this ballot back. If they do return it by mail, the process and timelines are the same for any other absent ballot in regards to how long after Election Day that ballot can arrive at the clerks and still be counted. It also must be postmarked by Election Day. At this time, I will show you very quickly what the packet itself looks like. So if the individual clicks that they want to mail it back, this is what the individuals can print out. In this case, it's only a 6-page document. It starts with a cover sheet that includes their information and provides an opportunity, or a space rather, for the voter to sign. The second page is a registration application, because through the ease process, if this is done on Election Day, all the way up to 7 p.m. on election night, individuals are able to register to vote and cast their ballot at the same time. The information there is provided similar to what the individual put on the other ballot. And then this is the form that the county clerks will receive this would be that secured PDF that they would then print out, and the clerk's office would transcribe this onto an actual ballot and then cast that ballot in the tabulator. This also maintains a paper trail. So again, for auditing purposes, the military overseas or any ease voter still has a paper ballot that can be tracked and counted and audited the same as everybody else. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Woloshyn. And Assemblywoman Cohen, would you rather I go through the presenters, the co-presenters, then open it up for questions, or go to questions right now?
Thank you, Chair Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29. I think we could have the co-presenters present and then open it up for questions.
Perfect. Then I'll go to Janine Moores next, who's on Zoom. Thank you for joining us.
Audio now unmuted alert.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senate Committee and presenters. Hello, my name is Janine Morris, and I'm speaking to you today to share how important the NVE's online
The
voting
host has
system,
spotlighted your video for everyone. Alert.
system has been to me, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic as a Nevada resident with a disability. I am totally blind, and I've been voting completely independently since 2004 using the audio ballot capability included in the electronic voting machines at my voting precinct, and I've done so with great pride and joy. This past year of 2020, access to NVEs for Nevada residents with disabilities due to the pandemic has allowed me to vote in 2 consequential elections from home using my iPhone and my refreshable Braille display. 2 pieces of technology I use daily without having to worry about transportation to a reduced number of polling places, not to mention possible exposure to COVID-19. I was able to successfully fill out and submit my ballot without any sighted assistance and with relatively few technical issues, and was again proud and excited to do so. Having had such a positive experience using NVEs to vote, I feel that even under post-COVID circumstances, it is vital that Nevadans with disabilities be given permanent access to this important voting option by law, so that all Nevadans with disabilities can vote independently, securely, and conveniently, as I have been able to do this past year, along with members of the military and other Americans overseas, without having to find assistance worry about transportation to the polls, or apply for a paper absent ballot, the last of which often requires the assistance of others and is therefore not private for a person with a visual impairment or other disabilities. I'd like to thank Assemblywoman Leslie Cohen for sponsoring AB 121, which, if passed by the entire Nevada legislature and signed by the governor, will make access to the NVE's online voting system for Nevada residents with disabilities a permanent voting option. And I urge the Nevada legislature to pass AB 121 and for the governor to sign the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Ms. Morris. We'll now come back to Carson City, and we've got Dora Martinez. Thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Chair Orenshaw. I wish I could say it's good to see you, but you sound so much better in person, sir. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Dora Martinez, for the record, and I am totally blind. And I just want to thank Assemblywoman Cohen for sponsoring this important bill in Lithium for people with disability in Nevada and those who are uniform members to vote independently and with dignity. Last year, I helped my husband, Juan Martinez, who couldn't be here today. He wanted to experience voting in the polls. So, okay, let's go then. You know, why not? It's your, you have that right. So we went. First, we had to find an accessible transportation, because both of us are visually impaired. We cannot legally drive. I can't say I haven't driven, but for the record, we can't drive at all. So we took a bus to go to our nearest polling place, which was a library near McQueen High School. We went. First thing is that it was difficult to find the door. We found it. My dog, service dog Sarge, found for us. We went in. They did not have the place to go and register. It was his first time to vote. So somebody helped us. But it went really well, except when we went to do the Social Security numbers, instead of doing it privately, they did it out loud. So it was infringe on his privacy. So with this NVEs, I think it would eliminate that problem with people who are visually impaired or people with any type of disability. They don't have to, with what Ms. Moore said, not deal with transportation accommodations or a personal care attendant to help them to go to that polling place and help them with voting. So I urge you to please support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to Carson City and coming to the legislative building to testify and present. And I know we have one other presenter on Zoom, so I'd like to go to our next presenter on Zoom.
Dear Chair and Committee, thank you for letting me speak today on AB 121. My name is Santa Perez and I am the chair of the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities. But today I am speaking on my own behalf. As you can see, I cannot use my hands to use the computer. I use Morse code with 2 switches under my chin. This is an effective way for me to communicate and to get many things done independently. During the pandemic, I realize how useful doing many things electronically can be. Paying bills online to going Christmas shopping was so much easier online. I am a Partonic citizen of Nevada and I love to vote. Having an electronic system would give me to vote without having someone to rely on to take me to a polling place and help me cast my ballot, then taking me home again. This new system will assist me to have a private voting experience and the tools that convenient to me. When I don't have my computer, I tap with my nose to vote on the voting machine. It not very sanitized, I know, but this is how I vote. At the last hearing, a man testified that people are able to go to the voting places, implying that we are lazy or want the easy way out. This made me angry. I am not lazy nor I want the easy way out. I just want to vote the way that is the best way to vote for me. I can also see how this new system will assist people in congregate setting be able to vote without dealing with transportation concerns. They will also be able to take their time to cast their vote. I hope that you will consider passing of 121. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Members, any questions for Assemblywoman Cohen or the co-presenters? Vice Chair Lang.
Hi, Assemblywoman. Thank you for bringing this bill to us. I just have a couple questions. Do you have an estimate of how many people in Nevada are disabled and would qualify under your guidelines for this program?
Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29. I don't know the statistics. However, just to be clear, as far as guidelines, it is the guidelines of under NRS 426.068. That's where we have defined disability. I don't know if any of the other presenters have that answer. No, I'm getting a no from Santa. But I mean, being that I think what's the statistic is around 26.8%. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I did testify to that. 26.8% of adults in Nevada have some type of disability, and obviously not everyone would be interested in doing this or benefit from it.
Thank you. And maybe this is a question to the Deputy Secretary of State. Do you know how many people are, and it can be a percentage or the number, are currently using this program in Nevada?
Thank you for the question, Senator Mark Velasquez, for the record. Yes, ma'am, I do. Again, there was relatively about 1,200 to about 2,000 individuals have used EASE to develop a ballot, with slightly less than that actually turning a ballot in since its inception. And that's per election cycle, to be clear. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. And so
Thank you.
it seems like there's a huge gap between the number of people that have used the program and the number of people that are eligible to use the program. And so I'm just wondering what we can do to close that gap. Because what I hear from the testimony today, that there are people that want to be able to vote, don't have access. And so I'm just wondering I think this is a great step for them to get that access, but then how do we communicate to the 26.8% of the people that they can now do this? Would it be through the county registrars?
Senator, thank you for the question. Mark Voloshin for the record. Assuming that maybe you're taking that to me. Yes, ma'am. It would be a joint effort, certainly to contact the registrars. In addition, though, this is a bill that we've discussed with Assemblywoman Cohen, that we would make a very concerted effort through the different advocacy groups that we worked with to help build it in the first place and to help ensure its ADA compliance, so that moving forward, those different groups that work across the state with different communities would be the most effective means for us and most cost efficient as well, to really and truly effectively get the word out about this program and this opportunity if Assembly Bill 121 is passed. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. And Assemblywoman, I think this is a really great bill, and I think it's probably something that's long overdue, and I just wanted to thank you and your presenters for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29. So, and I believe it's a relatively new program, not UACAVA, but using Nevada Ease for allowing people who are disabled in Nevada to vote. Ms. Martinez was part of the pilot program, and actually she's the person who told me about it and said, we really need to get this into statute. So it's, this is really her bill and the bill of the other people who are, getting out there and voting despite the difficulty that they shouldn't have to go through.
Hi, Dora Martinez for the record. Thank you, Assemblywoman, although it was a collaborative effort with me and her. I just want to say it's relatively new. Before NVEs last year took place, like Miss Janine Morse had testified, it's accessible to go to the poll and do the machines for before. But now with the pandemic, NVEs is quite convenient because you could do it at your own home, at your own comfort, with an iPhone or an Android, or even a PC and a laptop. So it is pretty accessible, and and the Nevada Governor Council on Developmental Disability that Santa Perez is the president of their council. We do have a NVE's tutorial on their YouTube. And once this passes, you can be sure that I and Santa and Janine Morse will be reaching out to those people that we know, because we work with people with disabilities, our network, to help them get the skills, because there is some skills that are required. You got to know how to use your computer and all that to participate in this important civil right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen. Thanks, Vice Chair Lang. Any additional questions? Not seeing any additional questions. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen. I think this bill is really excellent. And actually, I thought of one question if I could ask the Chief Deputy, and it might be a more important question for the clerks if they come up to testify. But do you think that our clerks, this seems like an amazing, great program that'll help a lot of people. Do you think the county clerks right now have the ability to implement this?
Thank you for the question, Chair. Mark Voloshin for the record. Yes, sir, absolutely. In discussing this with the clerks and registrars, this is something that they are well aware of. They've been involved in the discussion as well, and they currently have the capacity to address even an increased number of individuals using the EASE program. I did want to clarify, though, I realized I presented some incorrect information to the Senator a moment ago. Approximately 1,200 to 2,000 total people have used EASE, but that included the military personnel and overseas citizens, along with their dependents. Only 93 individuals with disabilities used it during this last election cycle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Deputy Voloshin. Assemblywoman Cohen.
Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29. We did have testimony from the Clark County Clerk's Office or from Registrar of Voters Joe Gloria at the last hearing, and he said that it had worked well. I'll be more vague because I don't want to misquote him, but he just generally said that it did work well and they had success with it, and he is not available today to testify, but I believe he would have testified otherwise.
Vice Chair Lang. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen.
That's great, and I think we have a lot of work to do to get the message out. I'm just curious, how many other states use a program like this? I guess
Thank you
that's
for the
in
question,
the
Senator.
deputy. Yeah. Sorry.
Mark Velashin for the record. I don't have the exact number. I'll be able to get that information to you. I do know that systems similar to this are relatively common and increasingly common, I guess I should say, across the country. But again, not all of them are the exact same. There's some commercial variants and the like, but I will get you a number of some additional information here shortly.
That's great. Thank you. I just was more curious than anything because I think it's a great program, and I want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone, and that I'm just curious on how it's worked in other states, because I think we can learn from them and learn how they got the message out, how they got more people involved, and if there's anything here at the legislature more that we could do to help.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Ling. Thank you, Chief Deputy Washington. Unless there are any other presenters you'd like me to call on, then I'll open it up for support. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen. If there's anyone else in support here in the committee room, please come forward, and then we'll go to support on the phone lines broadcasting, and we're allotting 2 minutes per speaker. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Annette Magnus, and I'm the Executive Director of Battle War in Progress. We are here today in strong support of Assembly Bill 121. Assembly Bill 121 allows for voters with disabilities to register to vote and request/cast a ballot through UOCAVA ballot via NVEs, a system that is used by members of the armed forces and folks who live overseas. This would be incredibly helpful for voters with disabilities because the traditional process of receiving a mail ballot, marking it, and returning it, or voting in person is not necessarily accessible, as you have previously heard. These folks may not be able to physically handle, read, or mark a ballot. Every Nevadan should share the same joy that I feel when I get to vote safely and conveniently in privacy. All eligible Nevadans deserve the right to vote no matter what their abilities are. I will also add that our organization will happily share information widely about this program upon passage of this legislation. We need to make sure we are not disenfranchising differently abled voters, and that we can do that by passing this important bill. Please support AB 121. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Magnus. Thank you. Is there anyone else here in Carson City who wishes to speak in support of Assembly Bill 121?
Good evening. My name is Shirley Cyrus. I'm the daughter of my amazing mother who is blind. I want to talk in support of this incredible bill because as a 14-year-old, I'm very excited to be able to vote within like 4 years. But just the thought that there's some disabled people out there, my bad. But just the thought that there's disabled people out there who haven't been able to vote solely based on their disability and solely based because of the fact that it's not accessible or because of the transportation. It's very disappointing. As my mother informed you guys earlier about the story of my stepdad who had trouble at the polling place, I remember them coming home and sharing that story with me. And not only is it frustrating for them, but it's also frustrating for me because I know that they're able to do so much, but people put limits on them because of their disability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for presenting today, and thank you for working with your mom and Assemblywoman Cohen on this legislation. Anyone else in the committee room who wishes to speak in favor of Assembly Bill 121? Right, not seeing anyone in the committee room. Broadcasting, if we can go to the phone lines. Anyone in support of Assembly Bill 121, we're allotting 2 minutes per caller.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 121, please press *9 now to get your place in the queue. I repeat, to testify in support of Assembly Bill 121, please press *9 now to get your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 120. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Stephen Cohen for the record. Stephen with a V. Cohen as in the Assemblywoman and co-presenter. Keep it nice and short and sweet. Ditto. With that, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I yield.
Caller with the last three digits, 130. Please slowly state and spell your name for the records. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christine Saunders. That's CHRISTINESAUNDERS. I'm a policy director with Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada, here in support of Assembly Bill 121. A plan, we believe that our democracy is most vibrant when more people are participating. AB 121 is an important piece of legislation to ensure that voters with disabilities in Nevada are able to have their voices heard at the ballot box. We urge your yes vote. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 261. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and the committee. For the record, my name is Jasmine, Jas as in Sam, Min as in Nancy, Margarita Tobin, T as in Tom, O, B as in boy, O, N as in Nancy. I go by Jazz, though. I'm an organizer for Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada. Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada is supportive of AB 121 because we should make participating in elections easier and more accessible to those who would not otherwise be able to participate. AB 121 will make voting more secure for voters with disabilities by tapping into an electronic system already in use for military voters and Nevadans living overseas. We believe that increased participation in elections and combating voter disenfranchisement is always a good thing. AB 121 will help to achieve that goal. Thank you for your time.
Caller with the last three digits, 201. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Orenshaw, and to the committee. For the record, my name is Emily Prasad Zamora, EMILYPERSAUD-ZAMORA, and I'm the Executive Director of Silver State Voices and calling in on behalf of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. We're a coalition of 21 national and local organizations dedicated to ensuring fair and equitable elections in Nevada and very eager to educate the community about this bill upon passage, hopefully. Under AB 121, voters with disabilities may register to vote as well as request and receive a UCAVA ballot under Nevada Ease, a system that's been used by members of the armed services and Nevadans residing overseas since 1986. The NVE system is a system based on proven and secure technology. This bill would extend a decade-long program to a voting bloc that would greatly benefit from it. By providing voters with disabilities access to this tool, this bill will ensure that this body is taking the proper steps to ensure that we're making voting more accessible for all Nevada voters. It's important to acknowledge that components of vote by mail may not necessarily be accessible for all voters with disabilities. Some folks within the community experience barriers when attempting to independently handle, read, or mark their mail ballot. UCAVA ballots, however, would eliminate those accessibility issues should they decide to use it. For example, someone who is quadriplegic and has no movement from the neck down can control a computer cursor either with a sip and puff device, an assistive technology that resembles a straw, or with their eye movement. There goes a saying that persons with disabilities have to fight for rights and privileges that able-bodied folks do not. Voting is not a privilege. It is a right for all U.S. citizens. That includes the 374,515 Nevadans living with disabilities, according to the American Community Survey. This body should ensure that voters with disabilities are able to have their voices heard. We urge your support in passing AB 121. Thank you for your time.
Caller with the last three digits, 956. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair. For the record, this is Liz Davenport, Lizdavenport, the Boyd Law Intern on behalf of the ACLU of Nevada in support of AB 121. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen, for bringing this legislation. The NVE's process has already proven to be easy to implement and has already allowed those in the armed forces and people with disabilities access to vote. For many people with disabilities, the process of physically filling out a ballot and appearing at a polling place is extremely difficult, as you've already heard during this presentation. Many times this requires formidable transportation needs as well, such as requiring specialized equipment in order to get to the polling place, and is then followed by difficulty navigating the polling place itself and often involves challenging accessibility concerns. AB 121 will provide voters with a disability the ability to use the already existing absentee NVE system and will alleviate the significant difficulties voters with disabilities experience in voting. Voters with disabilities should have the same easy, simple access to voting as all other voters. Democracy is a better place with greater access to voting for all Nevadans. We urge your support on this bill. Thank you, and that concludes my testimony.
Caller with the last three digits, 519. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, good afternoon, Chairperson and members of the committee. My name is Andrew Sierra, ANDREWSIERRA, and I'm the organizing manager for the Nevada Conservation League, speaking in support of AB 121. NCL envisions a future where all Nevadans can thrive because they have access to a healthy climate, clean air, clean water, and outdoor spaces, as well as a safe, healthy, and sustainable communities. We understand that this vision isn't possible without a fair and inclusive democracy in which all voters can participate. For us, passing strong laws to protect our environment depends upon open and fair elections because we believe that the long-term health of our planet is directly linked with the health of our democracy. For many voters with disabilities, absentee voting has been the safest and most accessible way to cast a ballot. This bill will make voting more accessible to all Nevadans by allowing voters with disabilities to use NVEs and extending the UOC AVA deadline to Election Day. Improving voting rights and access is fundamental to making our elections more responsive to Nevadans living with disabilities.
Caller with the last three digits, 576. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Chair and member of the committee. My name is Eric Jeng, ERICJENG, on behalf of Asian Community Development Council, ACDC Nevada, speaking in support of AB 121. I want to thank Assemblywoman Cohen. This is a good bill. It removes existing barriers and is a group that serves a lot of limited English proficiency people, households, voters. We would like to be in solidarity with the people in disabilities communities to making sure we're removing barrier, making voting more accessible and equitable. Using existing and tried and true platform like the Yokava, I think this is a good bill, and we're here in full support of it. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 158. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Orange, all members of the committee. My name is Mikey Kelly. First name, Mikey. Last name, Kelly, for the record. I am the chair of the Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus, and I am also the state director for the DNC Veterans and Military Families Council. And we emphatically support AB 121. in this time where we're seeing the right of our fellow Americans to vote being disenfranchised in a way that we haven't seen in at least 50 years. Any program, anything that ensures our fellow Americans the right to access the vote, the most powerful right that we have, is important to us. And it is important to us as a council and as a caucus to stand in support of it. Thank you so much, Assemblywoman Cohen, for putting forth this bill. We stand in support of it as patriots, and we're proud folks, and we know this affects us as well. So again, we stand in support of this legislation. We urge you to vote for its passage. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 710. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Maria Nieto Orta. That's Maria, last name Nieto, space Orta. And I am the Nevada State Coordinator for Mi Familia Vota Education Fund, an organization that strives to improve political efficacy in the Latino community and a partner of Let Nevadans Vote. Mi Familia Vota is in full support of AB 121 because all eligible Nevadans should have the proper accommodations to have their voice heard. This includes allowing voters with disabilities to register to vote, request, and cast a ballot. By clarifying these accommodations, it ensures that voters have ample time and resources they need to vote from the comfort of their home. It's important to acknowledge that this bill will eliminate the stressful process of trying to navigate a complex voting process and the inaccessible components of vote by mail. Our vote is our voice, and Nevada must put options in place to allow voters with disabilities to have a say in every election. We need to ensure that we are protecting people's right to vote. We thank Assemblywoman Cohen for expanding access to voters with disabilities, members of the armed forces, their spouses and dependents, and Nevadans residing overseas. Thank you so much for your time.
Caller with the last three digits, 135. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and committee members. My name is Carrie Durmick. That is KERRYDURMICK. And I'm the Nevada State Director with All Voting is Local, which is a voting rights project housed at the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and also a proud member of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. All Voting is Local is in full support of AB 121. We need a voting system that is open, accessible, and secure for all voters. Nevada needs to ensure that we are protecting everyone's right and freedom to vote. This bill will protect and expand the right to vote of people with disabilities, and we are in strong support of AB 121 and ask for your support. Thank you for your time.
If you have recently joined our call and wish to provide testimony in support of Assembly Bill 121, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Chair, there appears to be no more support testimony for Assembly Bill 121 at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. Opposed to Assembly Bill 121, anyone here in the committee room wishes to be heard? Right, not seeing anyone in the committee room. Broadcasting, we can go to the phone lines. We're allotting 2 minutes per caller. Opposition to Assembly Bill 121.
If you wish to provide testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 121, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. I repeat, if you wish to provide testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 121, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Chair, there appears to be no testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 121 at this time.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to neutral. Anyone who wants to be heard neutral on the measure here in Carson City? Right, not seeing anyone in the committee room, we'll go to the phone lines. Broadcasting, anyone who's neutral on the measure and wants to be heard, we're allotting 2 minutes per caller.
If you wish to provide testimony in a neutral position on Assembly Bill 121, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Once more, if you wish to provide testimony in a neutral position on Assembly Bill 121, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Chair, there appears to be no testimony in a neutral position on Assembly Bill 121 at this time.
Thank you, Broadcasting. Assemblywoman Cohen, would you like to make any closing comments, or Ms. Martinez? Thank you for presenting this bill today.
Thank you, Chair and Committee, for hearing the bill, and I will be very brief. And thank you to my fellow presenters. One of the callers did make the point about someone who is paraplegic and how this would help them. And actually, we did have testimony from a gentleman when we presented in the Assembly who did call in, who is paraplegic. So it definitely is an accessibility issue. And, it really actually makes me mad about the person who called in opposition in the Assembly who offended my friend, Ms. Perez, and talked about people being too lazy to go out, or, wanting things too easy. And I mean, it's voting. It shouldn't have to be difficult. It should be as easy as possible. Once again, I just really appreciate the committee hearing the bill, and my co-presenters and their work on the bill. And with that, I do believe Ms. Uell does have a statement, and then if any of the other presenters also have a statement.
Thank you. Please, Ms. Will Martinez, thank you. And we also were very impressed with your daughter. And some days, she may want to be interested in the Nevada Youth Legislature. We have a program here for teenagers where they can get involved and actually work on bills, and might be something she'd want to consider. And our research division knows a lot about that, but you can reach out to Assemblywoman Cohen or myself.
And if I can cut in very briefly, Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29. Her testimony last session, I believe it was AB 140, stole the show. It was the best testimony of the hearing.
Yeah. I don't know where she gets it from. I can't speak in public. Dora Martinez, for the record. Thank you, Chair Ansha and Vice Chair and the committee, for hearing our testimony. And thank you to Assemblywoman District 29, Awesome Cohen, as we call her in our disability community. This is a very important bill to all of us. My friend Santa and Janine, and a lot of people that couldn't call to testify today because they got a hospital appointment. We do wish and hope that you and urge your support in this matter. And if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out and we can answer any questions. And upon passing, rest assured that we will be involved in passing this throughout Nevada. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez. And Chief Deputy Wolashin, Ms. Mowers, or Ms. Perez, any closing comments any of you'd like to make?
And as I was saying, I am the state. No, I am. Sarah? In Willis. I am in Willis. No, I am. As I was saying, I live. No, it's not about the wheelchair. No, I'm of the council. I am the chair. This is no Papa's. This information. This information would be you're not saying this. Oh, this. Okay, this information would be good. No, this will be going out. No, yeah, going out. This information is going out everywhere. This information is going out everywhere. Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perez. Thank you for your testimony today, and thank you for your work on this important legislation. Any other closing comments, Ms. Mowers or Chief Deputy Woloshyn? All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen. Thank you, Ms. Martinez, and appreciate your work on this important legislation. We'll now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 121, and we will open the hearing on Senate Concurrent Resolution 10. We are very fortunate to have my friend, my colleague, Senator Spearman, here to present Senate Concurrent Resolution 10, and we appreciate your work on this front, the important work on renewable energy.
Thank you. And before I get started with mine, I just want to say to Assemblywoman Cohen, if she's still in the room, and to the co-presenters, I really appreciate her bringing that bill, because it's not just for those who are differently abled in civilian life. I think we should always hold first and foremost that we have a number of people who served in the military and who fought in the 20-year-long wars that we've been in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I know for a fact that there have been several who have come back quadriplegic, several who have come back and a BK amputation below the knee. Several have come back and they've not had use of their limbs below the neck. So this is going to help not just those who are differently abled now, but this is also a way to look out and make sure that we are taking care of those who have fought, and many have paid the price for our right to freedom. And it just seems to me that it's the right thing to do. So with that, good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. For the record, I am Pat Spearman, State Senator representing Senate District 1. It's an honor for me to be here to introduce to you Senate Concurrent Resolution 10, which brings to the forefront of legislative discussion the critical issue of hydrogen and lithium development. This resolution represents just one piece of a larger puzzle that ultimately creates a comprehensive and valuable energy strategy for the state of Nevada. Nevada enjoys a rather diverse energy portfolio with several renewable energy projects, and currently, Nevadans benefit from several geothermal and solar projects and a number of wind, biomass, hydro, and waste heat and renewable energy projects. Despite this impressive array of energy resources and development, there is a need to explore, and encourage the development of lithium, hydrogen, and other renewable energy resources and strategies in Nevada with the intent of reducing the emissions of carbon dioxide in Nevada to levels commensurate with those established in the Paris Agreement. Moreover, as the resolution notes, state climate strategy has identified hydrogen technologies, including hydrogen fuel cell vehicles and hydrogen fueling stations, as opportunities for carbon emissions reductions. The potential for job creation and increased tax revenue is also critical, as we know that hydrogen in-use applications, including transportation, seasonal energy storage, and the global energy trade, provide opportunities to enhance economic development in our state. And this economic development is also economic diversification, which we desperately need. Indeed, the hydrogen economy is predicted to rapidly expand across the globe and is currently valued, that is today it is valued at more than $100 billion with a B dollars annually. In addition to the carbon emissions benefits of hydrogen, similar advantages exist in those of lithium, particularly in lithium batteries for use in electric and hybrid vehicles. The state climate strategy recently identified Nevada as having the largest lithium prospects in the United States, and Nevada has the only active lithium mine in North America. The potential for us to become a worldwide leader in lithium production is significant. And as you know, lithium is critical to the burgeoning electric car industry and for battery technology in general. Clearly, this offers economic opportunities to establish Nevada as an epicenter for lithium mining. In addition to uses in batteries, advanced manufacturing of vehicles, and battery recycling technology, lithium enjoys end-use applications in electronics, electric tools, and grid storage. And I believe everyone in the committee probably has one of these handheld computers, also known as a smartphone. And every time you plug that in to be charged, you're charging a lithium battery. These offer key opportunities for economic development, providing much-needed, high-paying jobs and increased tax revenue. Moreover, the expansion of transportation powered by hydrogen fuel cells and lithium batteries will help decrease carbon emissions, improve air quality, and protect the respiratory health of Nevadans, particularly those in our communities of color or who are economically disadvantaged. Here's the scope of the study. I want to address what SCR 10 sets forth. In summary, the Legislative Committee on Energy shall conduct an interim study concerning the development of hydrogen, lithium, and other energy resources in the state, to include the development of related technologies with the goal of achieving energy independence for Nevada, facilitating economic diversification, and our national security goal of energy independence. The study would include consideration of methods to increase opportunities for Nevada students to study subjects related to hydrogen, lithium, and related technologies at a community college, a state college, or a university. The Legislative Committee on Energy must, when conducting the study, partner or consult with representatives of the Nevada System of Higher Education, or NSHE, the K-12 system, the environmental protection community, the private sector, and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory and other in-state energy laboratories to consider input from various stakeholders in both government, environmental nonprofits, social and economic justice advocates, and the private sector. In addition, the committee shall partner and consult with NSHE and K-12 to understand and to examine ways to improve the curriculum development and training workers in the emerging hydrogen and lithium technologies. And Mr. Chair and committee members, let me just say this. We had a wonderful opportunity to talk with those in the environmental protection community on, I believe it was Monday, and made sure that we, their concerns and their thoughts that they brought forward, made sure that they are a part of the amendment that you have on this bill. And I just want to emphasize again, this is really a study. It does not mean we're going to do anything, but we have to study. We've got to make sure that we understand and know all of the opportunities and the possibilities for renewable energy that exists in our state. Further, if it's feasible, the committee shall enter into a contract or other agreement with the University of Nevada, Reno, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, or the Desert Research Institute for gathering data and producing a cost-benefit analysis of hydrogen and lithium energy resources. And the cost-benefit analysis, or the CBA, will also include what that looks like in terms of healthcare, what are the benefits, what are some of the downsides? What should we be looking out for in terms of making sure that as we're exploring and maybe even implementing some of these technologies, making sure that we're doing it in a way that protects not just the environment, but also protects those who are the most vulnerable in our communities. Finally, as you can see, the resolution, the study will assess the feasibility of using hydrogen and lithium as energy resources in Nevada for various applications. This includes the potential for using hydrogen and lithium in the operation of zero-emission vehicles, trains, watercraft, and other equipment. The potential for converting existing mines into resources for hydrogen include the production of green hydrogen from water associated with active or abandoned mines. And I'm not sure how many members of the committee have heard the term brown water, and that's water. It's not wastewater, but it's water that has been used, but it's an opportunity to recycle for programs such as this, and we don't have to use clean water, if you will. The methods for incentivizing the use of hydrogen and lithium as energy resources, and a review of any economic and regulatory barriers hindering the implementation of hydrogen and lithium as energy resources, and the potential for using hydrogen microgrids in the use of lithium batteries as energy storage for microgrids to strengthen the resiliency of the electric power grid. Senate Bill 254 in 2019 requires reports to be submitted as to whether or not our energy policies are appropriate for our 2050 goal of zero carbon emissions by the year 2050. We also passed legislation in 2019 session requiring that our RPS must be at 50% by 2030. We've passed several pieces of energy legislation since 1997, and although very good bills, and some of them were mine, we have not, to my knowledge, passed a comprehensive package that delineates, we know what, but it does not delineate how we will get there. This is a study, and if done the correct way, this study can facilitate the development of a plan to achieve the 2030 goals and lay the foundation for a zero carbon emissions by 2050. Here's something to think about, Mr. Chair and committee members. We are now in the 2021 legislative session. We have about 27 days left. So this session is gone. We now have 3 sessions left. That's 2023, 2025, and 2027. When the legislature meets in 2029, we must be about the business of finalizing legislation to meet the 2030 standards. If we do not start looking at all of the renewable energy options right now, we will not be ready. I say again, this is a study. We want to make sure that we're exploring all of the options and the opportunities to develop our renewable energy policies, strategies, and resources in this state. And if we don't decide how that happens, it will be decided for us. And so that is the genesis of the gist of this bill. And I will come back for closing remarks. I have a presentation to make in the Assembly Legislative Operations and Elections, but have a team of presenters who I know can take the realm right now. And I'll be back later for questions, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Senator Spearman. We appreciate your leadership on the renewable energy front.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to open it up to anyone else who would like to speak as a co-presenter or in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 10. I see on Zoom. Please proceed. Whoever would like to proceed, state your name and proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Orenshaw and members of the committee, and thank you, Senator Spearman, for fine work on this. My name is Steve Polikalas. That's Stevepolikalas. I'm an attorney at law, and I represent, in this instance, the Western States Hydrogen Alliance. I'll be introducing the executive director of the alliance in a moment, but I'd just like to say as an overview, I'm very proud of Governor Sisolak for signing the state climate strategy, and hydrogen is going to play an enormous role in that. As many may know or not know, hydrogen is the simplest and most abundant element in the universe. Taking us back to college or high school chemistry, 75% of the sun is made from hydrogen. We have virtually an unlimited access to energy through the sun. But the question is, how do we use that energy and deploy it here on Earth? For storing and shifting hydrogen in large amounts of renewable energy through hydrogen, hydrogen represents the cleanest and most flexible solution to that issue. The redundancy, the resiliency, the security, of our energy mix, and the mix of that energy, as Senator Spearman pointed out, is vital to mission critical industries that we have in Nevada, including our airports, our gaming properties, hospitals, police stations, fire stations, data centers. The importance of this as a national and state security issue cannot be overstated. To go into much more detail about some of these activities and the role that hydrogen will play in that, I will now introduce Roxana Bekmohamedy, who is Executive Director of WSHA, the Western States Hydrogen Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Polikalas. Very good to see you, and please proceed, and we can see the presentation on the screen. Thank you, Ms. Mohammadi.
Thank you so much. I come to you as an environmental policy advocate and engineer, and as the executive director of the Western States Hydrogen Alliance. Thank you, Chairman Orenthal and members of the committee for hearing this important bill. I would also like to commend the legislature and the governor for being dedicated to clean energy jobs, which are essential for the economic and environmental vitality of this great state. Lastly, I truly want to thank Senator Spearman. I know she's run off, but I hope she sees this, for her commitment to those goals. And you will find that SCR 10 was crafted in the same vein. I also want to thank the senator for her military service to this country. Hydrogen is the next frontier in our quest to provide a sustainable future for the next generation, while simultaneously building upon the state's success in renewable energy, green job creation, economic diversification, emission reduction, grid resiliency, and national security. You guys have been quite busy. I wanted to go ahead into the next slide. Thank you. So the Western States Hydrogen Alliance, also known as WSHA, is comprised of world leaders in clean energy technologies. I might be going over some of their technologies that they've deployed. They're absolutely interested in investing in the state and creating a new hub of research and economic development in zero-emission energy and transportation applications. The federal government, including the U.S. Department of Energy, as well as other agencies like the U.S. DoD, are pursuing hydrogen as a key way to enable a decarbonized economy. Ooh, Senator Spearman, hello. We see this focus due to the ability for hydrogen to serve as the means to achieving energy security, economic prosperity, and resilience. This next graphic is actually borrowed from the Department of Energy, so I thank them for that. You can see that we have primarily quite a bit of heavy production in California, Louisiana, and Texas. A lot of that hydrogen production is actually for the refinement of crude oil, and it's really truly to remove sulfur from that from the crude oil. So that does help eliminate SOx emissions. So that's a key way that hydrogen has already been playing a role in cleaning our air. Hydrogen is also utilized in the production of fertilizers, treating metals, and processing fruits. So hydrogen is, again, all around us and a key component of industrial processes. Recently, hydrogen has been identified as a way to decarbonize our transportation and energy sectors that is due to two attributes to the fuel. One, that it can be produced by renewable feedstocks, and hydrogen consumed in fuel cells provide electricity and heat without combustion, avoiding tailpipe and source emissions. As a result, we see that over 500 megawatts of stationary fuel cells are powering our country, and numerous fuel cell vehicles and equipment like cars, buses, trucks, forklifts are in operation today. With the great state at the intersection of the West, it's the ideal time to become a major player in these large but still nascent markets with so much untapped economic potential. So this is actually quite an interesting example. This is actually in Japan, where they're producing hydrogen from solar and other renewable resources. And this is a plant actually in Fukushima. And this is a way that they are moving forward to provide clean and safe energy options for their community. But this is not a unique example. You can find similar installations across the globe, and yes, at home in the US of A. The next example is a wind turbine that is producing renewable hydrogen. These two examples enable further adoption of solar and wind, which has slightly plateaued due to the need for long-term energy storage. Hydrogen can provide energy storage for seasons, if need be, compared to batteries with only 4 hours of storage capacity. Hydrogen production also has a number of benefits for the electric grid, storing curtailed renewable power, load shaving, frequency regulation, which further reduces carbon dioxide emissions. I think this is a famous photo. This is a photo from a home in Texas during the recent extended power outage that the state suffered. Extreme weather is absolutely expected at this point, and according to climate scientists, we really need to focus on the importance of integrating grid resiliency solutions. Hydrogen is a superior energy storage and a way to provide distributed generation and backup power to critical facilities, which absolutely aids in this grid resiliency need. This is a perfect example where actually during Hurricane Sandy, fuel cell power systems were actually the most reliable backup power generator. So we see that it's no surprise that over 800 backup power fuel cell systems have been deployed in almost half of the nation. This is also a fantastic example of what we're doing with fuel cells in transportation modes. On display is a hydrogen fuel cell electric bus powered by our member company, Ballard Power Systems. We commend RTC of Southern Nevada for recently being awarded of 2 fuel cell electric buses, so a very competitive FTA solicitation, as well as RTC of Washoe County for their interest in advancing hydrogen fuel cell electric transportation. To the top right, you see a Hyundai fuel cell electric truck that we anticipate traveling through the state and beyond on the country's freight corridors. This will be one of WISH's hallmark initiatives by enabling hydrogen highways. The bottom right picture is of Plug Power's fuel cell electric forklifts with its accompanying fueling infrastructure. You can see hundreds of these forklifts right here in a number of Las Vegas distribution centers. And we're not just focused on zero-emission transport on surface roads. The ferry pictured is a fuel cell-powered ferry that was built actually by Golden Gate Zero Emission Marine, which is now known as Zero Emission Industries, and they are actively working to bring fuel cell electric watercrafts to Lake Tahoe and Lake Mead. We now see that hydrogen fuel cell electric mining and other heavy equipment are being introduced to the market globally. Nevada's mining industry in rural counties can benefit from these technologies, increasing operational efficiencies and minimizing health hazards to workers. One of my favorites is that hydrogen is a domestically produced fuel, and it not only creates jobs, but it also reduces imports of foreign oil, increasing our national security. The U.S. military has actually been quite an early adopter of hydrogen technologies and fuel cell technologies, including the exploration of fuel cell electric tanks, as well as understanding that hydrogen will become actually a future tactical fuel. So this is a map of fueling stations across the U.S. Note that Nevada has done a great job advancing the electric highway and helping facilitate battery electric vehicle corridors in the western U.S. There is a need, however, and actually an opportunity to provide fueling stations and infrastructure for fuel cell electric, and I want to emphasize they are electric vehicles, in the Great Silver State. So diversifying zero-emission fuels is beneficial by providing additional economic opportunities, resilience in transportation, and reducing greenhouse gases and other air pollutants. This is actually quite a development in Nevada and very famous in the hydrogen world, which is actually Air Liquide's plant in northern Nevada. They've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this facility. They will be employing quite a number of local constituents, so we're really excited about the growth of this facility. So recently there was a McKinsey report that came out that was quite substantial. It reported that, by 2050, the U.S. hydrogen industry could generate an estimated $750 billion per year in revenue and support 3.4 million jobs. We would love to see these jobs and this kind of economic vitality occur within the Silver State. The highlights from that study, actually, I would say is quite substantial as an engineer, where, hydrogen can meet 14% of the energy demand that we need in the country. It can generate, again, $750 billion per year, support 3.4 million jobs, reduce carbon emissions by 16%, and reduce NOx emissions by 36%. Also, with SR 10, it would help facilitate additional funding from federal grants for academic research as well as workforce development. So that is something that we look forward to pursuing with the passing of SCR 10. And I want to thank you for your time and consideration, and I look forward to answering any questions, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Members, are there any questions for the presenters? I'm not seeing any questions, so I will open it up for support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 10. Here in Carson City, I know we've got some folks.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, yes. Is that Senator Spearman?
I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm so sorry. There were a couple other people, and I came back real quick, but there were a couple other people that I wanted to present, and one of them is Alfredo Alonso, and I don't know if I don't know if Rose McKinney James has had an opportunity to weigh in.
No, not yet, and they're here in Carson City. So if I can call them up, I see Mr. Alonso and Ms. McKinney James. If we'd love to have you speak. Thank you for being here today. Then after Mr. Alonso and Ms. McKinney James, I see we have Mr. Rowe on Zoom. We'll get to you right after. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Rowe.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Alfredo Alonso, today in full support. We also have a couple of other individuals on the Zoom with your indulgence. Lestanja Baker with Toyota is also on, and so is Kurt Augustine with the Auto Alliance.
Certainly. Would you like me to go to them first?
That would probably make sense. They have a presentation both on the hydrogen side and on the lithium side, so okay. Between them. Yes.
Perfectly fine. So I'd like to go to Mr. Rowe and Ms. Baker. Thank you for being here and for your patience.
Good afternoon, Chairman Orenshaw and Senators of the committee. My name is, for the record, my name is Bernard Rowe, spelled BERNARD ROWE. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman. I'm the president of Ioneer, which is currently developing the Rhyolite Ridge Lithium and Boron project in Esmeralda County, Nevada. And I'm speaking in support of SCR 10. Thank the committee for this opportunity to provide an overview of the tremendous potential of Nevada's lithium industry, which has the opportunity to create thousands of jobs in the coming years as part of Nevada's and the nation's transition to electrification and the development of a lithium-ion battery manufacturing supply chain. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I would like to share my screen.
Please go ahead.
I'm going to present a very brief overview of the lithium energy industry and the opportunity that it presents for Nevada in particular, given its abundance of resource.
So firstly, looking at the importance of lithium to electrification. And by electrification, I'm talking about electrification of transportation, but also the battery storage of green energy into intermittent green energy that can provide a meaningful contribution to existing sources of baseload power. So for many years, lithium has been used in industries, in industrial applications, electronics, ceramics, small powered devices. But it's really the growth in demand that's going to come from electrification, particularly of transportation, that's going to drive this tremendous increase in demand like we've never seen before, really, in any other commodity. It applies to electric vehicles, but it also applies to the static storage of green power. Just to give you some very brief idea of the quantum of the scale of this demand, it's quite amazing. But as of around today, 2019, 2020, there's about 200,000 tonnes of lithium chemicals. It's either lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide that goes into a lithium-ion battery. So for the entire world, there's about 200,000 tonnes used. On top of that, there's about another 100,000 tonnes of lithium chemicals that are used in other applications. So a total of 300,000 tonnes. And you can see some splits there. About 10% of it is in static storage and about 90% in EVs. Both of those numbers are going to go up by about tenfold over the next decade. So the 300,000 tonnes of material that the world produces today, all of that will be needed just for the United States by the end of this decade. And in fact, in Europe, where there's faster take-up of electric vehicles, all of that, 300,000 tonnes, will be consumed by Europe by 2024, it's estimated. So there's an incredible growth in this material that's going to be required to make this transition to electrification of transportation possible. If we look at supply and demand, the domestic annual production, I've mentioned about the demand that's on the horizon for the United States. As of today, the lithium that gets consumed in the United States and most other parts of the world is either comes from China or is reprocessed in China and refined in China, so to make it into the lithium chemical. Domestic production, and yes, we heard earlier that there's about 5,000 tonnes of lithium chemicals produced per year at the Silver Peak mine in Esmeralda County. That is the only lithium production in the United States, in fact, the only lithium production in North America. And it's around about 1% of the world's supply. Now, that's expected to, Albemarle have announced that they intend to double that, but still, it doesn't come anywhere near a fraction of what's going to be required. So if we look at the current situation in the United States, there's very little production and there's very, very little refining capacity. And that's important because it's one thing to mine and produce a lithium product. It's something else altogether to refine it into what is ultimately required to go into a lithium-ion battery and into an electric vehicle or a static storage battery. And again, some of the numbers are mentioned there, 340,000 tonnes versus 5,000 tonnes of current day production. So incredible demand and a very strong over-reliance on China as it stands today. Here's the situation in the United States. Again, it repeats some of the numbers I've just mentioned. Gigafactories, everyone's familiar with the gigafactory outside of Reno. 53 gigawatt hours of battery capacity and expected to grow over time. And Tesla have now announced another one to be built in Texas. There's some others that are listed there that are either in construction or already started producing. But there'll be and I'm sure there'll be others added over time. But in order for that to happen, then there is this incredible need for the raw material to be provided, and it's not such a simple solution to say we can get it from somewhere else, because there's very limited places where you can get that from. So if we look at where it comes from, as it's a snapshot in time today, and I'm only going to look at lithium. You can forget for the time being. We won't talk about the other commodities, but stage one is the mining of the raw material. The United States, 1% of the world's lithium, and interestingly, China, 0%. So that China doesn't have any lithium of its own of any significant size. But look over here and see on the right-hand side that by the time you start processing it into the refined chemicals, China is about 60% and the US only 4%. And then by the time on the bottom left, you put it into a cathode that goes inside a battery, the US is back to 0, China's 61%, and then it goes into a battery in the bottom right corner, the US about 10%, China's 73%. So lithium-ion battery global manufacturing capacity, 73% goes through China. There's lots of implications for not developing an industry and relying on external sources. There's the environmental risks and impacts that are far less controlled when you just simply buy and bring in that material from somewhere else. There's obviously the strategic element of it, the reliability of that source and where it comes from. There's the social risks around not developing your own supply chain because you miss out on those job opportunities and business opportunities, including in rural Nevada. And an important thing too to remember, if you look at where I said lithium comes from around the world and gets processed in China and then moved elsewhere, there's a tremendous cost in the fossil fuels and the related emissions that come from moving lithium all around the world as it currently stands today. So the idea of developing a domestic supply chain within the United States has a huge number of benefits in those key risk areas. I'm not going to dwell on this because we're starting to get into a little bit of geology here, but there are a couple of different types of lithium deposits. There's the brines, which is a salty water that gets pumped out of the ground and evaporated, as happens at Silver Peak in Esmeralda County. And then there's spodumene, which is a mineral that's mined like a hard rock mine. And Australia produces most of the world's spodumene currently. But all of that, 100% of it gets sent offshore for processing. And it's roughly 50-50 split between that. But there are other sources that are not currently exploited that's where there's a tremendous opportunity for Nevada. So, and the other source that I'm talking about is sedimentary type of lithium. So this is lithium that's not pumped out of the ground in a brine and have evaporation ponds, and nor is it a mineral that needs to be sent to China for processing. It's these sedimentary deposits which occur in Esmeralda County, Humboldt County, Nye County, that are around lithium clays. There's the Esmeralda County, our project, Rhyolite Ridge, which is around a mineral called cerlusite. And then there are some other brine opportunities as well within the state. But the important thing with these deposits is they don't have to be sent, a mineral concentrate or a pre-product doesn't have to be created and sent offshore for processing. The end products can be made at or near the mine site. And so that's where there's a tremendous opportunity here. We're not just talking about mining, we're talking about mining the raw material, we're talking about mining, processing, making cathodes, making batteries, and putting them either into an electric car or into static storage batteries for renewable energy, geothermal, wind, solar, etc. So I'm going to finish on this slide. So there are tremendous opportunities in Nevada. There's the opportunities to become major supplier for the United States, for North America, a major non-Chinese supplier for other parts of the world as well. Certainly there are challenges in developing any new mineral deposits. We're very aware of that. There's the processing technology that has to be developed, which takes many years and many millions of dollars. Most deposits are on federal land, not all of them, but many of them are. So there's the permitting requirements that go alongside that, and that takes some time to develop. These deposits and these mineral processing, refining facilities are large capital intensive projects. So there's a lot of capital investment required. But Nevada has invested heavily in building a lithium-ion battery facilities already with the Tesla Gigafactory and the Tesla car manufacturing, and there's certainly an opportunity to add to that, build on it to develop a more fully a lithium-ion battery supply chain from raw material all the way through to batteries that go in cars and storing renewable power. There's obviously other benefits that come with that. I've said that these are big projects, big capital intensity projects. There's some tremendous job creation opportunities, the economic benefit that comes with developing these projects in rural Nevada. And importantly, as you develop this supply chain domestically, what that does is it keeps the prices down. It drives the price of those lithium-ion batteries down over time as production is increased. And that makes this technology that we're talking about all the more affordable for all Nevadans and all Americans. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my remarks. I would like to thank Mr. Chairman and the committee for allowing me to present today. I'm very grateful of the opportunity, and I stand ready for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, and I have to compliment you. Many of our own countrymen here cannot pronounce the name of our state correctly, but it's wonderful to see someone from Australia be able to pronounce Nevada correctly. So thank you very much, Mr. Rowe. Members, any questions? Thank you very much. No questions right now. I see we've got Mr. Augustine. Thank you, Mr. Augustine, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Kurt Augustine. That's CurtAugustine, and I'm the Senior Director of Government Affairs for the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. And the Alliance is the trade association that represents the 99% of the auto manufacturers and vehicles sold in the United States, as well as many of the technology providers for zero-emission vehicles also belong to our association. So zero-emission vehicles for the auto industry are the future. Currently, we have 53 models of electric vehicles for sale in the United States, and there will be over 100 ZEVs by 2023. And as part of our commitment to this industry, we're spending $250 billion by 2023 on zero-emission vehicles, and that includes both battery electric vehicles and hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles. But that's really just the beginning, because we are on the cusp of having an all-ZEV future that many of our manufacturers have announced that by 2030 or 2035, their entire product lines will be doing that. In addition, Nevada, as you know, is in the process of adopting the ZEV mandate based on California standards. By complete coincidence, today, the California Air Resources Board announced their goals for the next decade on zero-emission vehicles. And they are saying that by 2026, the mandate will be that 25% of all vehicles sold in California will need to be ZEVs. 33% by 2027, 50% by 2029, and 75% by 2031. And these are very ambitious goals, and that we are prepared to meet. However, this can't be done without the fuel to support these vehicles as they are driving around. So the sourcing of hydrogen and lithium is critical to any future success we have in the zero vehicle market. Particularly important about the sourcing is now with President Biden's plans for a Buy America future. So without more U.S. source materials, we're not going to be able to meet these standards of both hydrogen and the lithium for batteries that power both electric and hydrogen-powered vehicles. So we applaud Senator Spearman for this forward-looking resolution that will help both job creation, but also provide a cleaner environment for Nevadans. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Augustine. Members, any questions? I'm not seeing any questions. Thank you for your presentation. And Senator Spearman, Ms. Baker. Hi, Ms. Baker. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I am Stani, S-T-A-N-I, Baker, B-A-K-E-R, and I am Regional Director of Government Affairs for Toyota Motor North America, a member of the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. And we are just here today in support of SCR 10, and certainly want to thank Senator Spearman, again, as Kurt said, for her forward thinking in looking at the need to study these questions today. I can say that Toyota has been developing hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles for 25 years, and we believe that a combination of hybrid electric vehicles, battery electric vehicles, and hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles are crucial for the decarbonization of the transportation fleet. We introduced our first generation Toyota Mirai, which is our fuel cell electric vehicle, in 2015. And with a combination, as Kurt mentioned, in California with vehicle incentives, but investment in infrastructure, we were able to launch that vehicle such that today there are about 10,000 fuel cell electric vehicles on the roads in California. Roughly 7,000 of them are Toyota Mirai. We just introduced our next generation Mirai, the beautiful car you see behind me here, our 2021, with a range of 400 miles and a time to refuel of 3 to 5 minutes. And so what we see with fuel cell electric vehicles, because as I mentioned, Toyota sells vehicles with plugs and without plugs, we believe that both, as Kurt said, all of the vehicles are necessary to meet consumer demand and need. But I think one of the unique opportunities with the hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicle is the ability to address the needs in the environmental justice community. So folk who live in multi-unit dwellings where they don't have an opportunity to plug in and charge at home, or frankly, if their homes are older and it's too costly to retrofit for home charging, would be able to fuel, as I said, in 3 to 5 minutes at a central fueling location. In California today, our hydrogen fuel cell electric fueling stations are generally co-located at existing gas stations. So customers would have pretty much the same experience that they have with their current internal combustion engine vehicles. Additionally, we get the longer range so that you have folk who live in remote areas and have to commute into work, as the senator knows with her district. Probably a lot of folk are leaving North Las Vegas coming into the city to work in the casinos and in the gaming industry. The ability to do that with a quick refuel and no concerns about being able to travel the distance you need to travel to get back and forth is crucial. We also look at the other benefits of the community, being that, you know, in some cities you aren't able to have electric charging on community locations. But if you've got a fueling station in a central location, usually with an attendant or a convenience store where there are folk there, it just provides a better opportunity for folk to be able to quickly fuel and move on. You've heard about the scalability of hydrogen, so I won't comment too much on that, other than to say that we see the need for light duty, the vehicles behind me, and heavy duty, which I don't have a picture of, but you saw the Hyundai products. Toyota is also partnering in the heavy duty realm. We've got 2 80,000-ton trucks doing drayage in the ports in LA. And the beauty is that the motor vehicle manufacturers, Hyundai, Toyota, we're putting our research and development into the fuel cell stacks, which are then being used to scale up to heavy duty trucks and buses. And, you know, you've heard a lot of information today, and we certainly just encourage you to support the resolution that is before you today, because studying all of this and having a better understanding of it, I think, gets us where we need to be. You've heard all of the targets and the metrics. And I can tell you, as I said, we've been selling this vehicle behind me, not this model, but the first generation since 2015. And we've got like 49 stations in the state of California. And that has taken a while to get there. And so it is very prudent to study now to be prepared for tomorrow. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and attention and encourage your support of the resolution before us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. And I just have to ask that great-looking car behind you, how much emission does it produce, and how far can it go before it needs to be recharged or refueled? If you have that information.
Thank you for that question. It was as if I wrote that for you, and I did not, but thank you. It's about 3 to 5 minutes to refuel. It can travel 400 miles, and the only emission from this vehicle is water vapor, which I have seen some of our engineers actually drink. It is potable. I don't recommend that, and I haven't myself tried it, but I've seen them do it.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, as a child of the 1970s, I didn't think I'd see vehicles like that in my lifetime. That's really wonderful that you're producing something like that that's going to be available, or is available, I guess, already for sale.
It is available, and I can tell you right now today, we are offering really great incentives to our customers to make them attractive. Toyota and frankly other manufacturers today, when you purchase or lease one of these vehicles from any of us, you get a fuel card, and for us, it's $15,000 or 3 to 6 years of fuel that the customer gets in addition to experiencing the vehicle. They get the fuel as well, because obviously we're trying to encourage the production and distribution of hydrogen. So this study is point on for us, right on.
And I guess one last question I have to ask, as a child of the 1970s, you know, when people had big muscle cars with a lot of horsepower, a lot of folks thought that, you know, cars like this that are environmentally friendly, you know, couldn't hit 60 or 65 miles an hour. Does this lack power, this kind of a energy efficient car? Or?
It actually has more power because it's an electric engine, so it's an electric drive vehicle, so you don't have the combustion of the engine, right? So we've got a lot of low-end torque. These are pretty. We were on another conversation, and I was sharing with friends of mine. The first time you step on the accelerator, it can be mind-blowing, frightening, and thrilling all at once. So they are very fast vehicles. And in fact, we can share after this a link where we did a test of a diesel heavy-duty truck 18-wheeler compared to a fuel cell, and they raced them, and literally the fuel cell is off the frame before the diesel is shifting in to come into the frame of the competition. So they're pretty fast.
Well, that's amazing that we've got vehicles like that. Any Vice Chair Lang?
I just want to say that car is beautiful. I think.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we're all salivating at how beautiful it is. But I think one of the great things, one of the great things about as we make the transition to more energy efficient vehicles is the style and how they look is so important because, you know, we've gotten used to driving certain types of cars that have nice style. I mean, everyone likes a nice style car, and it's great that I think initially when the cars came out, they didn't have a lot of style, but now we've made that transition to more style, and I think it will entice more people to purchase those kinds of cars.
Yes, thank you very much. I will share just a quick anecdote. I know we're running late, but we actually have a full line of Prius vehicles because there is a certain segment of our customer base that wants you to know from a distance that they're driving a hybrid vehicle, right? So even though we have, as we say, hybridized many of our other vehicles, so you can have a hybrid Lexus, we found that a lot of customers just want people to be able to see from a distance that they are driving a hybrid. So there are some folk who like that style of car, but we are seeing a lot of excitement, frankly, from some of the newer designs from us and other OEMs, to be fair.
Oh, no, I really like that one.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just want to ask Ms. Baker one thing, and I don't know if you covered it while I was zooming in and out of meetings, but there's another nice thing about the hydrogen fuel cell when you apply the brakes, the rechargeability. I don't know if you covered that at all.
I didn't. And so that's regeneration for the battery, yes. And we do that particularly in our hybrid vehicles. And it's a way to capture the heat energy from braking, as you said, and regenerate and recharge the batteries. And we can do that for the accessories, particularly on electric vehicles. On a fuel cell electric vehicle, you don't have as much concern about drainage on the battery because you're generating the electricity as you go along with the fuel. But absolutely, that is a component. Roxana talked about it as well, but there are some of these vehicles in other parts of the world that have a connection on them that, at some point, if there were natural disasters, you could take your vehicle and use it as a generator because there's no emission. So you could theoretically plug your vehicle into your house and generate power for your home for up to 2 weeks on the fuel in the tank if necessary during an emergency in the future. And there are vehicles in other parts of the world, hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles, that already have that component. As Roxana said, today we generally have the generators that are put on trucks and taken to those sites. But the potential for these vehicles to offer that kind of home support as well is out there.
Vice Chair Ling.
I just have one more question. So I'm just interested, I think California is much further ahead than we are on some of these things. And so is this vehicle and the 2015 model that you had, because one of my friends just texted me and told me that her husband drove the 2015 model and loved it. And I'm just wondering if they're predominantly available in California or are they available in all the states? I mean, I haven't seen one on the road, so I'm just...
Solely in California, and only because that is where the fueling infrastructure exists today. As Roxana said, her organization, and we are members of a number of organizations in common, are working to try to extend that hydrogen highway, because where there is fueling infrastructure, we want to be able to offer these vehicles to our customers. And some of your discussions that you had earlier today about taking some of your excess capacity and storing it as hydrogen and having the opportunity to take hydrogen and either feed it back into the grid or use it for transportation are exactly the kinds of things that we're working on in the Pacific Northwest right now. And so we definitely see opportunities in the Pacific Northwest to be able to probably bring these vehicles next. We're also doing some work in the Northeast, but California right now has our entire fleet of fuel cell electric vehicles.
So and this study will, I'm sure, address some of these items, but I'm just curious if Nevada were to get the capacity to be able to have those fueling stations, what is the time frame? I mean, how long would it take for that to happen?
To build the stations or bring the cars?
To build the stations and get the cars. I think we have to build the stations before we get the cars.
Yes, and I'm probably not your expert on station development and building, although I can say that, we've seen stations take probably from 6 months to a year in California. They are getting better because they have learned, all right? So they didn't necessarily do the study. I think it's been a sort of an on-the-job training, if you will. And the station development is coming along a lot faster. The permitting is better. Local jurisdictions understand better what the stations are. And I don't know, Kurt, if you have anything you want to add, or if Roxana is still on, if she has anything she wants to add to correct that.
Well, obviously, the information that you provided was accurate. Part of the challenge that we have in California is local permitting issues. The cities obviously have authority of that, and they're concerned about it. It's new and different. But what is important on hydrogen specifically, of course, compared with charging stations for electric vehicles that have to be permitted and whatever, the local gas station owners are very, very interested in hydrogen stations because of the throughput time that Donnie talked about. It only takes 3 to 5 minutes to fill up a vehicle as opposed to an hour to 2 hours or whatever to charge up a vehicle. So there are already commercial sites that are potentially ready to put stations in, and that's very enticing, and that eliminates some of the permitting issues. But it has been a challenge in California. They've made progress, but it is a challenge to get locals to accept that. And we've been working with some legislators in Nevada on these issues as we are preparing for Nevada to be a ZEV mandate state. And there are a lot of different incentives for property owners and potential station owners to put these in, and that's what we're working, and hopefully we'll have some solutions crafted, whether it's this session or in 2 years, to make the ZEV rollout more successful.
So, Senator, I would also like to add on to the comments made. Thank you, Lestanja and Kurt. I wanted to mention the fact that there's two other factors that are important as well to discuss with hydrogen infrastructure, fueling infrastructure, that is. There's also stationary fuel cells that can provide power to these chargers for battery electric vehicles, especially those bigger vehicles that require so much power. The stations are comparable. There's no paradigm shift. It's really going to the gas station just like you would with your normal car. It's really a fabulous experience and a nice way to move toward a clean energy economy. There's also something that is kind of neglected as well that I want to highlight is, we're very lucky in Nevada to have the Air Liquide and the production plant that they have there, because truly volume is going to be really important, especially not just with the light duty vehicles, but also these heavy duty applications or even stationary power. I mean, really, hydrogen plays a lot of different roles. And there's going to be a need for distribution eventually, maybe distribution infrastructure. As we update our, natural gas pipelines, we might consider hydrogen compatible materials. So there is truly an ecosystem that we can develop in this state that will enable, hopefully gasoline and diesel parity with a zero emission solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And really appreciate your comments. And for the record, that was Ms. Bekamadi. Sorry about my mispronunciation. Members, any additional questions? I guess one question I had for Mr. Rowe, you mentioned the lithium mine at Silver Peak, and is that lithium is only available in Nevada and in the People's Republic of China? No other places in the world? If we still have, maybe we lost Mr. Rowe. Maybe he's not on. Okay, well, it's a question I should have asked earlier. All right, well then, not seeing any...
Actually, I could answer that a little bit.
Well, thank you, Mr. Augustine.
Yeah, hi, Kurt Augustine for the record. No, lithium is found in other places in the world, in Australia, South America, Africa, obviously the site in Nevada. There's also consideration at the Salton Sea in Southern California. So there are many places, but often many of these places are in, frankly, politically unstable parts of the world. And this is why it is important that we are considering U.S.-based alternatives for stability. You've often referenced in your comments about the 70s. Nobody wants to be back at the 70s oil shock days where we're held captive to foreign agendas. And that's why we really like this resolution, because it does help domesticate our needs for these battery components.
Thank you very much, Mr. Augustine. Any additional questions? You're not seeing any additional questions. I'd like to bring it back to the committee hearing room, and I see Ms. McKinney-James. Thank you for joining us, Ms. McKinney-James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm delighted to be here. I'm Rose McKinney-James, McKinney-James, J-M-E-S, here today at the invitation of the bill sponsor. I'm the managing principal of Energy Works, LLC, and McKinney-James and Associates, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And I promise to be brief. I think you know better than most that Nevada has been a leader in clean energy development for more than 3 decades. And that support has been demonstrated by the commitments of multiple legislatures. As a state over those many years, as policymakers, you have approved a very aggressive suite of key policies that have promoted significant investment in our abundant renewable energy resources. And that success has given us, I think, a really important place in the world. And I know this because as a very young, a very new lobbyist, I came to this body and approached you to request the support of an amendment to a major energy bill that would have provided for us the opportunity to establish our first renewable portfolio standard. And so I've been involved in this process for more years than I want to count. And I think what you've heard today is that that small effort resulted in Nevada turning an important point toward environmental stewardship, economic diversification, and now, as we move forward, to climate resiliency. I think that the presentations that you've heard today clearly demonstrate that both hydrogen and lithium are poised to play an important role in this next generation of energy development. Global automakers making billion-dollar investments. I have to mention that the Biden-Harris administration has pledged to electrify the federal fleet. The time for electrification is here. As I mentioned, I am an advocate. I will leave the technical answers to the scientists and the researchers and those who I hope will participate in this study. Because I think fundamentally what we need is to make sure as we move forward that we've taken the time. These are complex issues. They require thoughtful consideration. We're moving to the next chapter. I hope that we will benefit from the efforts that we've already undertaken. I hope we can execute on a vision that has been outlined over many years. And I hope that we'll take advantage of some of the economic benefits. A study has been conducted already to show that there's a potential for us to add $700 million per year to the state's economy. We could create potentially 5,000 additional jobs per year. And importantly, from a health standpoint, we could prevent 120 premature deaths and 4,000 asthma attacks per year. So there are a variety of embedded benefits in our ongoing commitment to advancing what I believe is going to be the new energy economy, a resilient climate approach, and I think the state of Nevada can lead in that way. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I can't say I'll stand ready to answer any technical questions, but I'm certainly here to help.
Thank you for presenting. We appreciate your expertise and the great contribution you've made to renewable energy in Nevada, Ms. McKinney-James. Members, any questions? No, I don't see any questions. Thank you so much for being here and your patience. It's been a long evening. Anyone else either on Zoom? I believe we've got Mr. Evans on Zoom. Ken Evans, who wishes to speak to the measure, and or in Carson City. Thank you, Mr. Evans, for your patience. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, for having me. For the record, Ken Evans, President of the Urban Chamber of Commerce, KENEVANS. I'm here today to lend my support on behalf of the Urban Chamber of Commerce for two primary reasons. First and foremost, as it has been suggested, this represents a chance to move into the renewable energy space and expand and diversify the Nevada economy, especially given recent events. Time and time again, unfortunately, we've gone through some economic cycles that I'm sure we'd like to have a more resilient economy moving forward. So for that reason, as well as for several other reasons that have already been mentioned, we definitely support the fact that this will make a great effort to expand and diversify the economy by going into an emerging market regarding renewable energy. As such, one thing we tell our businesses, and what I want to briefly share, is that we represent small, diverse businesses, a subset of which is Black-owned businesses. And one of the things we share with them is that whether you're starting a business or trying to expand a business, we want them to consider markets, industries, and sectors where the economy is going, not so much where it has been. And that's not to disparage our traditional economy. It's just to suggest that as we move forward, a lot of opportunities to get in on the front end or the ground floor will be in these new and emerging sectors. So for that reason, we definitely want to suggest and encourage and support our businesses into getting in the renewable energy sector, which is the reason why doing a study like this is important, because I'm sure it will have an economic development component to it. For example, imagine doing charging stations in the 89106 zip code. That will be powerful because it could possibly create some employment opportunities, some small business opportunities, as well as introduce the technology to a segment of the community that sometimes and traditionally has been underrepresented in initiatives like this. The second reason why we support this is because there's the opportunity for diversity and inclusion in this new market, whether it's having our small businesses act as suppliers, as vendors, as professional service providers. And yes, we also have technicians and individuals that may have scientific backgrounds that could be a benefit as well. So for those two reasons, we at the Urban Chamber of Commerce, and I as the president of the Urban Chamber of Commerce, as well as admittedly a civil engineer who has somewhat of an energy background myself, applaud the efforts and thank Senator Spearman for sponsoring this resolution. And we definitely encourage all of you to give it your full consideration and ultimately your support, so that when it's all said and done, we can do two things. Number one, expand and diversify our economy. And number two, make sure that number one is done in a manner that values inclusiveness and diversity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evans, and certainly, as was mentioned earlier, in thanking Senator Spearman for her service, I certainly thank you for your service to our country and fighting overseas and putting yourselves in harm's way to defend our country, and thank you for representing the Urban Chamber today in support of this bill. Anyone else in support of the measure here in Carson City? Thank you for patiently waiting. I know Mr. Polikalas.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, it's difficult through Zoom, as I'm sure you have experienced. I wish I could make a point that Ms. Beck Mohammed can add about some of the work Ms. Senator Spearman's been doing on some of the infrastructure needs.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Stephen. I just wanted to say that the senator has been extremely proactive in actually supporting all of these companies that are here today to expand into the great Silver State and bring hydrogen to fruition. I thank her for her leadership. I mean, you've heard from Toyota and other automakers, and she has been working very closely with our organization to ensure that all of the things that need to be in place will be in place. I mean, as you heard earlier, she's extremely passionate about creating the urgency that's absolutely necessary to ensure that the state can reach its 2030 goals.
Thank you very much, Ms. Becca Mahadi, and thank you, Mr. Polikalas.
Thank you, sir.
We will come back to Carson City. Thank you very much for being here, and please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Ornshaw and committee members. For the record, Dwayne McClinton with Southwest Gas. Southwest Gas would like to express our support for SCR 10, which will create an interim study concerning the development of hydrogen and lithium as energy resources for the state of Nevada. Specifically, additional study and discussions of hydrogen technologies have the capability of leading to affordable hydrogen production, storage, and distribution to support Nevada's clean energy future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McClinton. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for speaking in support of this measure. We appreciate your testimony. Anyone else who would like to speak in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 10? If there's anyone I missed on Zoom, please say something. Make sure I didn't miss anyone. I don't see anyone else in the committee room. And then I'll go to phone lines next. And if there's no one I've missed broadcasting, if we can go to the phone lines in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 10, we're allotting 2 minutes per caller.
Testify in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 10. Please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. I repeat, if you wish to provide testimony in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 10, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 496. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Alexandria Dazlich, D-A-Z-L-I-C-H, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Nevada Restaurant Association. The Nevada Restaurant Association is here today in support of SCR 10. The Nevada Restaurant Association is committed to taking steps to combat the effects of climate change and believes this bill addresses our environmental commitment. We believe studying the implementation of hydrogen and lithium as an alternative energy resource is a good step towards developing a more climate-friendly alternative energy option. We appreciate Senator Spearman for bringing this issue to the committee today for discussion, and thank you for your time.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 505. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, I'm Peter Guzman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Mr. Guzman, we can hear you. Thank you for being here today. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you so much. Peter Guzman, President of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. First and foremost, want to thank Senator Spearman for leading this effort. This is so exciting. And listening to the experts and the testimony, I'm even more excited. SCR 10 provides an opportunity for the state to study the development of hydrogen resources in Nevada, a low-carbon fuel that can be blended into natural gas infrastructure to help lower greenhouse gas emissions. That alone is enough to be excited for. But when you include that we can actually be the leaders here in Nevada, that we can create jobs, create opportunities for folks in this clean energy realm, it is extremely exciting to us. It's the reason why we support this study and believe it is a critical step towards a decarbonized future and opportunity for Nevadans. Thank you so much.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 086. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. I repeat, caller with the last 3 digits, 086. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, Alan Mace here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Alan Mace, A-L-A-N, M as in Mary, A-C-E, and I'm here just to speak in favor of SCR 10. It seems like a rational approach contributing to decarbonization, emission reduction, and energy independence. I'm an application specialist for Ballard Power Systems, where we, along with other experts in the U.S. and globally, know and are demonstrating that hydrogen and fuel cells are an ideal solution for zero-emission heavy-duty applications, including truck, bus, rail, and maritime. Fuel cells are a zero-emission solution. Oxygen and hydrogen are combined in the fuel cell to produce electricity and a little bit of heat and water vapor. They meet the requirements of heavy-duty applications. They refuel quickly, carry heavy payloads, have long range between refueling, which enables high utilization. And additionally, the vehicles are quiet, resulting in a more pleasant experience for operators and neighbors. Fuel cells vehicles are already commercially available. Transit buses and cars are available from multiple manufacturers, and heavy-duty trucks will be commercially available before 2025. First trains and vessels are in planning now. Regarding hydrogen, there's multiple pathways to produce it. Some are zero emission and result in zero carbon on a well-to-wheels basis. And, possibly Nevada could produce green hydrogen from your domestic and wind and solar resources. So I fully support SCR-10 as a good step leading to decarbonization for Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Caller with the last three digits, 010. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you. Jake Tibbetts, JakeTibbitts, and I'm the Eureka County Natural Resources Manager representing Eureka County. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thanks for the opportunity today. Eureka County supports SCR-10 and the study to work out some of the supply chain factors of the renewable energy equation in Nevada. We've also submitted an amendment for the committee and sponsors' consideration, and this amendment would add vanadium as part of the interim study. Upon learning the bill was introduced just 1 week ago, we've tried to work within the time and COVID constraints to connect with the sponsor and others with the concept of including vanadium into the mix, and we're hoping our amendment is viewed as friendly, and that's our intent. We believe vanadium must be a key consideration in the renewable energy equation in Nevada. Many benefits noted of lithium also apply to vanadium. The first primary vanadium mine project in the entire United States has been identified and is currently being permitted within Nevada. Nevada's vanadium production would be capable of meeting at least 50% of the United States demand for this critical mineral. In the USGS professional paper 1802-U, the USGS recognizes, quote, vanadium is becoming more widely used in green technology applications, especially in battery technology. And vanadium redox flow batteries, or VRB, are a major potential future use for the emerging need for large-scale electricity storage. Because of their large-scale storage capacity, development of VRBs could prompt increases in the use of wind, solar, and other renewable intermittent power sources. Lithium, vanadium, phosphate batteries produce high voltages and high energy-to-weight ratios, which make them ideal for use in electric cars. Again, we do support SCR-10 and hope the committee will see the importance of including vanadium into the study and the renewable energy equation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tibbetts. And I just had a quick question. Is vanadium something that is found in Eureka County? I may have been too late. Well, I can try to find out offline. Broadcasting, if we can go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 682. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yeah, this is Christopher Hussey, ChristopherHussey, and I'm a resident of North Las Vegas, 8903 Run. So I'm super thankful for my senator, Spearman, for bringing this bill and this resolution to the floor. So I also want to thank the committee members and Chairman Oceansall for considering SCR-10. I'm here representing Lancer Energy. We are a Utah-based company, and Pine Creek Power Company is also Utah-based. We're actively pursuing hydrogen projects in Nevada and see Nevada as a critical corridor between Arizona, California, and Utah in the expansion of hydrogen as a transportation fuel. Lancer Energy is looking to expand our operations into Las Vegas due to the amount of abundant solar and wind projects. And also with the low cost of renewable electricity, we believe Las Vegas can play a pivotal role in the production of green hydrogen. Green hydrogen offers the clearest path towards reducing emissions in the medium to heavy-duty vehicle markets and as an alternative for peak shaving activities. So I want to thank you guys also for taking this into consideration, and we are in support of SCR 10. And thank you again, Senator Spearman, for your service to the country and also to me as a resident. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 938. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Chair Ornshaw, Vice Chair Lang, and members of the committee. My name is Ariel Edwards, ARIELLE-EDWARDS, Government Affairs Specialist with the City of North Las Vegas. The City of North Las Vegas is in support of SCR 10. We believe that studying hydrogen and lithium as an energy resource in this state will be a great opportunity to provide Nevadans with greater energy choices, create good paying jobs, and for us to utilize our state's natural resources even more. We urge the support and passage of SCR 10. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 704. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening. My name is Marie Steele, MarieSteele, and I'm here today to testify in support of SCR 10 on behalf of NV Energy. Thank you to Senator Spearman, Chair Ornshaw, Vice Chair Lang, and the committee for bringing this opportunity forward. We share the sponsors and presenters' enthusiasm and commitment to clean energy development and zero-emission transportation. I'll keep this brief. We look forward to the opportunity to study and discuss over the interim how hydrogen and lithium can further benefit the people of Nevada and our economy while advancing our climate goals. Thank you again for your time this evening. That concludes NV Energy's testimony in support of SCR 10.
Caller with the last three digits, 642. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Randy Robison on behalf of the City of Las Vegas, RANDYROBISON. I can't possibly add anything more to the discussion this evening than to say we are in full support. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 738. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Ornshaw and members of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. My name is Nikki Bailey Lundahl, NIKKI-BAILEY-LUNDAHL, the Government Affairs Manager at the Nevada Mining Association. I'd like to thank the bill sponsor, Senator Spearman, for this innovative piece of legislation that we believe will further position Nevada as a global leader in the emerging green economy. As SCR 10 identifies, Nevada has the largest lithium prospect in the United States. Nevada's mining industry is positioned to supply not just this state with critical minerals necessary to achieving energy independence, but also the United States, as it achieves its global commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Supporting the development of both of these critical minerals will facilitate economic diversification, create much-needed workforce development opportunities across the state, promote STEM fields in our state's schools and universities, and make Nevada the epicenter of emerging green economy in the United States. The Nevada Mining Association urges your support of SCR 10. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 077. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jared Semick, JARED-SEMIK. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Lithium Airspace, and I'm here to testify in support of SCR 10 in the pursuit of the hydrogen economy. The use of hydrogen as a fuel and energy storage medium and its resultant economy not only represent a step in the direction of eliminating carbon and NOx emissions and the creation of jobs, but has a national and state strategic importance as follows. companies like Eternium Aerospace, Zero Avia, and Nikola Motors are currently developing hydrogen-fueled aircraft and heavy transport vehicles whose technology has great potential value to the military and our national economy by way of its infrastructure. According to our research and development efforts, hydrogen can be produced in unlimited quantities using only the ambient energy of the sun, wind, geothermal, and hydraulic energy, which in one form or another are available across the entire planet. Unlike hydrocarbon fuel, which is harvested in limited terrestrial reserves, requiring access or control over said reserves, lending to a host of geopolitical and economic difficulties. The capacity of our energy to be harvested from any water source and a local source of ambient energy creates the potential for true energy independence, not only of a strategic military but economic importance. This potential is not only relevant at the national level, but at the state level as well, and that Nevada is home to vast resources of solar, wind, and geothermal energy, which, coupled with our electrolysis and liquefaction technology that we're currently developing, could represent a net increase in production of transportation energy to augment the declining production of hydrocarbon fuels statewide. Additionally, hydrogen does not require separate resources for harvesting and refining, as does petroleum, not only reducing the complexity of the infrastructure by orders of magnitude, but allowing for on-demand and on-location production, further reducing costs and difficulties associated with transporting fuel. It is for these benefits and more that Eternium Aerospace is full support of this resolution and the Nevada state government in pursuit of hydrogen technologies and infrastructure. Thank you.
If you've recently joined our call and wish to provide testimony in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 10, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 246. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Once again, caller with the last 3 digits, 246. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute. My name is Jordan Kemper, JordenKemper, for the record. I'm one of the managing partners of a consultancy firm called Zero Emission Advisors. We specialize in planning regional decarbonization and electrification. I'm calling in support of this legislation. I won't belabor all of the already well stated and argued benefits for adoption of the technology, but I did want to add that I think the legislation is very astute in enabling an effective, basically planning process so that both private and public funds are not misappropriated and that the commercialization and rollout of these technologies can be done in a very thoughtful and impactful manner. The other thing I wanted to comment that I really appreciated with this legislation was that it is technology agnostic, and it is putting forth both battery electric and hydrogen-based technologies for examination, which is really important because a lot of legislation I do see is very special interest driven and not really for the best interest of kind of the strategic goals of the ecosystem. So thank you for the contribution, and I heartily support this measure.
Chair, that concludes testimony in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 10 at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. I'll now go to opposition on Senate Concurrent Resolution 10. I don't see anyone here in the room in Carson City in the hearing room. So Broadcasting, if we can go to the phone lines, anyone who wants to speak in opposition to Senate Concurrent Resolution 10. We're allotting 2 minutes per caller.
If you wish to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 10, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Chair, there appears to be no testimony in opposition of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 10 at this time.
Thank you. And now we'll go to neutral on the measure. Anyone who wants to speak neutral? 2 minutes per caller. There's no one here in the committee room, so we'll go broadcasting to the phone lines.
If you wish to provide testimony in a neutral position on Senate Concurrent Resolution number 10, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 732, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Kyle Davis, Kyledavis, and I appear tonight on behalf of the Nevada Conservation League. The Nevada Conservation League is neutral on SCR 10, as we do not have an opinion whether the subject matter is an appropriate topic for the Legislative Committee on Energy to study. We did want to note a few items for the committee's information, though. Lithium and hydrogen are certainly important components to our state's clean energy future as we reduce our carbon emissions to meet our state's climate goals. That being said, it's important to understand that hydrogen, specifically green hydrogen, presents an opportunity to decarbonize hard-to-decarbonize sectors such as aviation, marine shipping, steelmaking, and long-distance trucking. There is a growing body of research in this area, and nearly all studies have found that it does not make sense to use green hydrogen in places where direct use of renewable energy is available. Specifically, it makes much more sense economically and environmentally to electrify home space heating and cooking with renewable energy than to replace methane gas with hydrogen. With regard to lithium, we would just encourage the committee to also consider the environmental impacts from mining operation. Just like all industrial installations, we need to be smart from the start. Thank you for your time today.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 096, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, Chair Renshaw, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Denise Rohrer. That's spelled DenisRohrer, and I am here on behalf of the Sierra Club, specifically the Toyabe chapter. I'm currently their chair of their legislative committee, and I actually moved to Nevada because my spouse got recruited for a lithium-ion recycling battery company. I want to first thank Senator Spearman for introducing this resolution. It's vitally important that our state does its due diligence in studying how lithium extraction and application will impact our state going forward. And while we understand this metal's importance in the advancement of electric vehicles and large-scale energy storage, it's also important to acknowledge and minimize the potential impacts of the state's limited water resources to wildlife, their habitats, and communities. The study can improve how well mines for lithium and other minerals are permitted to minimize their negative impacts. The energy transition needs to be more than technological, though. It also needs to consider how we develop and deploy these technologies. Mining inherently disproportionately affects certain communities and the environment. The transition process and the legislative study needs to recognize this reality. As our state transitions to 100% renewable energy by 2050, looking at options like hydrogen while taking into account any consequences needed for this technology will also be extremely important. With this in mind, we urge the study to consider the use of green hydrogen that is produced by clean energy. Sierra Club is opposed to hydrogen that would extend the life cycle of fossil fuels in Nevada. We are testifying a neutral stance today due to these and a few other factors we believe are missing from the resolution as it's currently written. As many have mentioned before, the demand for these resources will increase significantly over the next 5 to 10 years. And while hydrogen may be an infinite resource, lithium definitely is not. And its supply is actually, its demand is supposed to exceed supply in as early as 2025. So specifically, we urge the committee to add language for the parameters of the study to include lithium battery recycling, including how batteries can be designed for reuse and recycling, free prior informed consent-based mining, and considerations for air and water quality due to future lithium and hydrogen projects. In addition, the bill should include provisions guaranteeing that the study will allow for and include input from environmental activists, social justice groups, and impacted communities. Thank you again, Chair and members of the committee, for hearing this important resolution and for the opportunity to speak today.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 792. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and maybe.
This is Patrick Donnelly. It's Donnelly.
I'm Nevada State Director with the Center for Biological Diversity. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, and thank you, Senator Spearman, for bringing the bill. I'm speaking to you today in neutral on this bill with a request for an amendment to include an examination of the environmental impacts of lithium production. Environmental impacts must be chief in mind as we move toward our renewable energy transition. Lithium production, if not sited and executed properly, can cause significant and potentially irreversible impacts to biodiversity. It could even cause extinction. Mr. Rowe, who presented the bill, provides a good object lesson for this discussion. The Rhyolite Ridge mine, proposed by Mr. Rowe's company Ioneer, is a perfect example of an inappropriately sited lithium mine, which could send an entire species of rare wildflower called Team's buckwheat to extinction. But instead of stopping the process and finding a better place to mine lithium, the company continues to move forward, and as a result, we're now in court in our efforts to save this rare species. It's important to note because there's time sensitivity to the renewable energy transition. And if your goal is to rapidly develop lithium resources, then choosing to site mines in the same places as endangered species or on the ancestral lands of local indigenous populations like at Thacker Pass, it's a really bad way to produce lithium quickly. Both the Rhyolite Ridge mine and the Thacker Pass mine will be tied up in litigation for years because they are poor places to mine lithium. It would be far more efficient and probably faster and cheaper for Mr. Rowe and Lithium Americas to pack up shop and find somewhere else to mine lithium with fewer environmental impacts. That's why we can only support this study if it includes a robust analysis of the environmental impacts of lithium mining and production. Mining companies shouldn't be the ones deciding where we mine lithium. They're going to be making billions off it. The state, environmental regulators, and communities and scientists should all have input on where lithium production occurs, and ultimately we must reject proposals like the Rhyolite Ridge mine, which drive species to extinction. It's essential that any study on the future of lithium production in Nevada include a component focusing on avoiding and minimizing the environmental impacts of such production, including a large-scale spatial planning exercise. We look forward to seeing any possible amendments for this bill. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 005. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Once again, caller with the last three digits, 005. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits, 533. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Chair Orenshall and members of the committee, good afternoon. I'm Dylan Sullivan. That's spelled DYLAN-SULLIVAN. I'm a senior scientist at the Natural Resources Defense Council. We are an environmental group with around 25,000 members and activists in Nevada. There is broad consensus that green hydrogen, and that's the hydrogen that is produced from renewable electricity and water, there's broad consensus that green hydrogen will be needed to avoid even more dangerous climate change by helping us achieve a net zero emissions global economy by mid-century. That's because green hydrogen can potentially fill in places in the economy where using renewable electricity directly is not a great option. So examples of those places, as my colleague Mr. Davis mentioned, are aviation, marine shipping, steel making, long-distance trucking, as well as low-hanging fruit existing applications where we already use hydrogen made from natural gas, like in refineries and chemical plants. To the extent that we're going to have green hydrogen supportive policy in Nevada, it needs to ensure that efforts are focused on places where the business and climate case for hydrogen are strongest. A couple of caveats are in order. First, green hydrogen appears, according to a lot of studies, to be a bad option to clean up greenhouse gas emissions from our use of the fossil fuel natural gas in buildings. And that's because the electric options like induction cooktops, heat pump water heaters and air source heat pumps, which can use renewable electricity directly, are so efficient. It takes about 5 times more wind or solar electricity to heat a home with green hydrogen than it does to heat the same home with an efficient electric heat pump, according to the well-respected German think tank Agora Energiewende. Also, there are, this is the second big caveat, there are a lot of varieties of hydrogen. Almost all of the hydrogen produced in the U.S. is made from natural gas, the fossil fuel. So producing this hydrogen releases greenhouse gas emissions at the point where it's made, just like burning that gas would. Any policy effort needs to be really clear about what type of hydrogen we are talking about. I'm testifying in neutral today because, like my colleague Mr. Davis from the Conservation League, I don't have an opinion about whether the Legislative Committee on Energy should investigate this topic. I'll note that the Nevada Climate Initiative may be a good place to investigate some of these issues around hydrogen. It's an existing public process where the state is looking broadly at how to meet state climate goals. With that, I'll end my testimony. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
If you've recently joined our call and wish to provide testimony in a neutral position on Senate Concurrent Resolution number 10, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 564. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening. My name is Chelsea Hand, CHELSUYHAND. I'm the Outreach and Program Coordinator of Great Basin Resource Watch, which is a Nevada-based public interest organization, and we're testifying as neutral on SCR 10. GBRW supports what we understand is the intent of this resolution to develop a plan to achieve the goals from the 2019 Nevada Legislature and Senate Bill 358, incorporated into the NRS. However, this is not stated in the text of the resolution. Rather, the resolution reads to support specific technologies that could potentially assist in achieving the unspoken intent. The parameters outlined in the resolution for the legislative study, in our view, are too narrow in focus. In line with the intent of the resolution, the following should be specified. 1, that both environmental and economic justice analysis of various approaches to achieving the NRS goals, including the disproportionate effects of communities and their environment from lithium and other mining. 2, an investigation of how the state can facilitate independent assessments of lithium and other mining for hosting communities. Otherwise, mining siting will remain contentious with increasing uncertainty. 3, an analysis of how Nevada can reduce energy and resource use demands, including increasing mass transit and reducing single-car occupancy. For example, according to the UN International Resource Panel in regards to passenger vehicles, the largest reductions of life cycle emissions could be attained by changing patterns of vehicle use, ride-sharing, car-sharing. 4, a plan for recycling, especially lithium, where it is estimated that the U.S. recycles less than 5%, Chemical and Engineering News 2019. Critical to this analysis is how Nevada can work with industry to design batteries for recycling and a move to shift our economy to one that is circular, where materials are reused and recycled to minimize and eliminate waste, environmental destruction, and disruption to hosting communities from mining, and to maximize resource use efficiency and employment. The energy transition needs to be more than technological, but also in how we develop and deploy these technologies. Mining inherently disproportionately affects certain communities and their environment. The transition process needs to be sensitive to this reality. We do appreciate Senator Spearman's leadership in moving Nevada towards a concrete plan to address climate change in a just way. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 005. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw, Vice Chair Lang, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Jennifer Taylor, Jennifer Taylor, and I'm honored to serve as the Deputy Director for Intergovernmental Relations in the Governor's Office of Energy. I'm here to offer neutral testimony for Senate Concurrent Resolution 10 and to provide information on GOE's current engagement with green hydrogen and lithium, both of which can play a role in Nevada's carbon reduction and clean energy goals. In the green hydrogen space, GOE Director David Bobzian represents Nevada as the co-chair for the Western Green Hydrogen Initiative, a public-private partnership to advance and accelerate deployment of green hydrogen infrastructure in the Western region for both economic and environmental benefits, and to support state roadmaps for green hydrogen as part of their energy and economic planning. As you've heard, current thoughts on uses for green hydrogen include long-duration storage, grid benefits, heavy industry, and heavy transportation. Green hydrogen is fuel diversification for heavy-duty transport also aligns with Nevada's climate strategy. The climate strategy identified areas in which green hydrogen could play a role to lower emissions, including assessing a clean truck program, exploring LEVZEV transit options, and looking for opportunities to designate additional alternative fuel corridors for hydrogen to complement the electric vehicle alternative fuel corridor designations being developed by GOE and NDOT and through GOE's Nevada Electric Highway Program. You've heard about Nevada's potential for lithium development and that lithium is a key resource for lithium battery energy storage systems that can support Nevada's solar resources. It's also a critical resource for transportation electrification, and increasing the relative proportion of ZEV vehicles, including EVs, will reduce Nevada's tailpipe GHG emissions. The development of this EV infrastructure is one of GOE's key program areas. Finally, should this study proceed, GOE would be happy to provide input. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak on SCR 10, and GOE is available as a resource or for any questions.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director Taylor, and thank you and to Director Bobzian for all your hard work trying to make us more energy efficient and a cleaner state in terms of emissions. One question I have, I've heard the term green hydrogen. How does that, what is that as opposed to other hydrogen, or is that just a term of art I need to do a little more research on?
Sorry, Chair, that caller has hung up.
And I may be too late again. I'll follow up offline. So I think of these great questions.
Roxanne, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Roxanne, I think, can answer that question for you.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Senator Spearman. Yes, Roxana Beck Mohammadi. There's just too many syllables. But yes, so green hydrogen. In Europe, there has been this beautiful color spectrum that they've come up with, and we love the Europeans, but I wouldn't say that we should adopt that kind of terminology in the States, to be honest. There has been misuse of the term. I really like to just go and refer to renewable hydrogen. So it means that it would be coming from renewable feedstocks. There were some comments that were made a little earlier that I thought was also pretty important for me to address, which is the fact that as an engineer, I want to warn all of the policymakers here to really value redundancy. Redundancy is so important with all of these extreme climate events, with even energy security threats like North Korea possibly, getting into having access to our electric grid. We certainly do want some redundancy with the natural gas system, be it with renewable natural gas, renewable hydrogen, however it happens to work out, which is why we're doing a study in the first place. I think that we really truly need to make sure that we do not put all our eggs into just the grid, because when the grid goes down, and it is going down, and you see it happening in so many states for various reasons, what are you going to rely on? And so, again, this is an issue that we need to study, and I think it's really important to evaluate Nevada's resources and think about what renewable hydrogen what kind of renewable hydrogen makes the most sense. First of all, I will say that you can use biogas to produce renewable hydrogen. And the statements that were made earlier, that's not actually true. CO2 is recycled in the carbon cycle. It can also be sequestered. And I will want to actually make a cute point, so I apologize, but vegans even produce biogas. As long as you have humans on this earth, you will be producing biogas anywhere and everywhere. I can't say that we have the same situation with water, so I would want to be careful about always pushing for electrolytic hydrogen, which is sometimes there's the misnomer is really that it's green hydrogen. I wouldn't recommend that, and I say that humbly. So again, I think that it is important to study this, which is the whole point of this resolution. Also, I do want to say something with respect to equity. The Greenlining Institute has recognized the fact that, well, there are certain nationalities that actually like to use gas for their cooking, and actually using an electric stove takes that away from them. So there are equity components here that aren't truly understood. And I really do want to encourage you all, go ahead, build a bunch of chargers and all the electric infrastructure and substations that you would need to do for your transit fleets and heavy-duty fleets, and I beg to see what happens in a scenario like that. It is unbelievably expensive. You will certainly have a lot of problems with that. So I would like to just say there's a lot of different ways to produce renewable hydrogen. I wouldn't be close to it. I think the study will do a really good job at figuring out what types of hydrogen would be best suited for the state. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Becken Hamadi and Senator Spearman. Appreciate your answer to the question. Sorry again about my mispronunciation. And we'll go back to broadcasting. Broadcasting, is there anyone else who wishes to speak in neutral?
Chair, we have no more people wishing to speak in a neutral position on Senate Concurrent Resolution number 10.
Thank you very much, broadcasting. And there's no one here in the hearing room in Carson City, so we'll go back to Senator Spearman and your presenters for any closing remarks. We appreciate you presenting this bill, and we appreciate your leadership on the renewable energy front.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee, for your indulgence. And I think the diversity and the array of comments, both in support, I don't think we had anyone in opposition, but those that were in neutral, I think really punctuate the need for a study. And there were several things, several areas that were mentioned that may not be in the explicit in the study, but that's why you see and other technologies. And I think that I think that LCB was able to put together a real quick mock-up that will make it clear that we're not just talking about these two, but we're talking about everything. So here's the thing, as I look at my phone, and I just had to plug my computer back into the grid because the battery was low. The fact that things are happening to us with respect to renewable energy testifies as to the urgency of this study. As I said in my opening remarks, we have passed since 1997, and I think Rose McKinney-James, I don't know if she's still on or not, but I think those have been around for a minute since that time. Randolph Townsend, we had a real long talk about things of this nature in 2017, and I worked very, very closely with all of the environmental groups that testified today when we were advocating for more solar and more green and clean energy. So I just want to be clear with everybody. This is not saying this is something we're going to do, but I think it is important that we study it. We have 2023, 25, 27, and when we come back, when the legislature meets in February of 2029, that will be 10 months before the 2030 50% is supposed to be reached. And what we've not done well is to step back and say, what do we have here in Nevada? What can we use? How can we use it? How long can we use it? The CBA, what's the cost benefit analysis? And that's not just money. We're talking about, I think I said this in my opening testimony, we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about economics, we're talking about a number of different areas. And if we don't study these things, then to be sure, in 27 and 29, stuff will be happening to us. We only have 120 days every other year. 120 days every other year. And by the time we get to 2030, I looked at the pictures of the Senate and the Assembly legislators a couple of nights ago. 80% of the people that are here right now will be turned out, including me. And so then the learning curve will start all over again. If we do not do this study, and I appreciate all of the comments and all of those things have been taken into consideration. That was one of the reasons I wanted to have the meeting with the environmental groups, because we were so pressed to try to get all of the other bills out. We did not have an opportunity to get this particular bill out, except within the last 2 weeks. Because our LCB staff has been busy, not just writing bills, but those of you who are legislators know that every time we say there's got to be an amendment, they may do a conceptual, but then they have to go back and do the mock-up. So they have been what I call elbows in the air, trying to make sure that all the amendments, all the bills and all the amendments get out, to include those amendments that are still coming from different committee meetings. So the amendment that we will have coming will be explicit about this is a study. No one, let me say that again, no one and no thing is excluded from this study. And I would invite everyone who has major concerns, minor concerns, or any concerns at all, I would invite you that once we get going on putting together what the study team will look like, I would invite you to come aboard, because we need all voices. But if we don't study, and I think that's what's happened to us so far, we've not been real intentional about studying what this looks like. I would encourage you, and I can get the link for you. I would encourage you, not just committee members, but anyone who's listening. I'd encourage you all to look at what New York did with their renewable energy vision. They took the time to say, what do we have in New York? What do we want to use? How do we want to use it? All those sorts of things. And so they've done that already for the state of New York. I think that it's very important for us to do that here in Nevada. I am just as clear on my support for renewable energy as I was in 2017. That's what I did my doctoral research on, global energy policy, and the competitive edge or the competitive advantage that it gives to those businesses who will use those concepts. This is a study. Again, this is a study. We can't include everything in the study, but when you see the phrase up to and without limitation, that means that the study can go wherever the research leads them. And so nothing is off the table. But if we don't do this study, we're going to continue every session. Every session, we're going to have some more energy bills, more energy bills, more energy bills. But it's like a quilt, and a quilt is a patchwork. It's nothing wrong with the bills that we're passing. But what I'm advocating for, the reason we need to do this study is we have to know the direction in which we are going. We have to know. We've got to make sure, and I think that's what I said in Senate Bill 254. Was all about. Let's look at the policies. Are they leading us to where we said we want to be in 2050? I don't know that they are right now. I don't know that they aren't. Why? Because we've not evaluated how all of the things that we've passed independently in the Senate, independently in the Assembly, sometimes joint resolutions, sometimes concurrent resolutions, but we passed all of those independently. And I've not heard, since I've been in this body, I've not heard any bill that starts with, this will get us to where we want to be in 2050. Please do not hear that as castigation of my colleagues or impugning what my intentions were. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that up until this point, I don't know that we have collectively, and that's legislature, that's executive, that's environmental, that's economic, that's industry, everybody. We've not come together to say, how do we get there? It's like saying we want to go to Chicago, and then you turn and say, well, you got a car? No, I don't have a car. You got a bus ticket? No, I don't have a bus ticket. You got a plane ticket? I don't have a plane ticket. Well, how are we going to get there? So all of the goals and things that we have right now with the legislation, all of that is beautiful. It is wonderful. But we do not know how all of those things will work together to get us where we're supposed to be by 2030 or by 2050 or even beyond. I think about, one of the things that the conundrum that we are in is the fact that everybody, and I'm pretty sure even people who called in, whether you called in for support or in opposition or neutral, everybody probably had that handheld computer. And the handheld computer has lithium in it. I don't know what we would do without it. Our computers, our laptops have lithium in it. The cameras and things that we use have lithium in it. We've been pressing and pushing for the adoption of more EVs. All of those are lithium batteries. Now, the University of San Diego has come up with a way to recycle them that is better for the environment because they're not thrown away. They're simply recycled and repurposed. So, that's one of the areas that the study can look at. But if we continue to go down the road we are right now, simply saying we're going to use all solar, we're going to put this off the table and we're going to put that off the table. There are a number of things about solar that 25 years ago people didn't know. But it's because we studied it and now we know. And those things that we didn't know then, we know now. And so that's what this is. Mr. Chairman and committee, that's all I'm saying. It is a study. We will not have time to go back and make an elaborate amendment. But you will see in there, and please refer to this testimony, refer to what I'm saying. If you see the study getting off course and not abiding by what we've said during this hearing, it will entail. Please remind us again, go back to this hearing, pull up the YouTube and show us this is what you said. Because if we don't get started, and like I said, we can't do an elaborate mock-up because we just don't have the time. All of these bills have got to be out of committee and by the 14th and then out of second house by the 22nd. So the words up to but not limited, or however that phrase goes, that includes a lot of things. I would encourage people, whatever your argument was for, please participate. Whatever your argument was against, please participate. Whatever your argument was in neutral, please participate. And I want to comment on something that I think Roxana just kind of hit on, and I think Ken Evans mentioned it, but I don't know that he elaborated. One of the things that's happened as we move towards a more clean and green world is that BIPOC communities, even though we know that there's some things we have to make sure happen when we're creating energy so that it doesn't destroy them, as of right now, there are very few people in the BIPOC community who have participated in earnest with the studies in terms of how do we grow this? What does this look like? What does renewable energy look like? If you would call together 50 executives right now for solar, you might find less than 2% of the people who show up who are people of color, even less who are women, even less who are people of color that are in that space that are making more than just a modest income. When we talk about study, that's what we're doing. Consider this a research project, and you go where the research leads. On the other side of this, it is my hope that all of the things that we know right now would be a detriment to the environment. It is my hope that we've looked out to see where technology is coming along and innovation is coming along that will mitigate or eliminate that. And we have to do that. We have to do that. This is a study. It is a study. Everyone is invited to please participate. And do so, as earnestly and as vociferously as you have supported, as you have opposed, or as you have stated in neutral. Everybody in the environmental community knows how hard I have fought for renewable energy and to make sure that we protect the environment. Okay? Those bona fides have not diminished. My commitment to that has not diminished. But what has increased is the fact that if we don't buckle down and study this, 23, 25, and 27. 80% of the people who are here right now, I think on the dais right now, I think probably one of the only people that will be here in 2030 is Senator Lang. I could be mistaken, but I think Senator Lang would probably be, maybe there's someone else. But 80% of the people that are here right now won't be here in 2030. So we've got to study because we need a blueprint. I could go on, but I won't. This is a study. And please don't forget that. This is not legislation saying we're going to do. This is legislation. This is a resolution saying we need to study this. That's all, Mr. Chair and committee members. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Senator Spearman, and I appreciate your leadership in the renewable energy area. And I personally know how inclusive you are of all stakeholders and how much you want every voice to be heard and no voice to be muted. So I appreciate your work on this bill and appreciate you being here at this late hour and your passion on this issue.
That's okay. If I can just say one more thing, because I didn't mention it, I think maybe some other people mentioned it, but as a veteran, one of the things that I know, and I know that Rear Admiral retired Gunn mentioned this in 2017 when he testified before Commerce and Labor and when he testified before the Subcommittee on Energy, the Commerce and Labor Committee. And he said that our grid people have poked our grid. Bad actors have poked our grid. There has been some intrusions into our grid. That ought to scare us and set our hair on fire, because that means that there are people who do not like us, that have the ability, if they go into the grid, if they were able to compromise the grid once or twice, that means that they can do it again under their own volition. If all we have is one resource for renewable energy, we are at the mercy of bad actors. And so as a former member of the military and as someone who worked at the Pentagon, and I understand what it means to talk about national security, this study is also important for that. Because all of the things that we're doing, if someone was to come in and compromise the grid right now, everything right now would go dark. Everything would go dark. What are we going to do? We've got to have a study because it is also a part of our national security process.
Thank you very much, Senator Spearman. Appreciate your presenting Senate Concurrent Resolution 10. Appreciate your passion on this issue. I will now close the hearing on Senate Concurrent Resolution 10, and the last item on our agenda is public comment. I don't see anyone here in the hearing room in Carson City, so broadcasting, if we can go to the phone lines. Public comment, we're allotting 2 minutes per caller.
Chair, at this time, the public line is open and working. However, there are no public comment in the lobby at this time.
All right, thank you, broadcasting. And Madam Secretary, I just want to make sure that Majority Leader Canizaro and Senator Seaver's cancer are marked excused. With that, we are adjourned.